Chapter 69. Cough cough. Qin Feiyong choked on his saliva, and even his tears came out. Isn't this old man too cute? Ling Yunfei, who was standing at the side, had his face flushed red. However, his heart was unprecedentedly comfortable and carefree. However, the Ling family's people's expressions were very interesting. It was Zhang Haotian who started the trouble first. However, Feng Cheng, as an elder of the Pill Hall and a battle emperor expert, not only did he not uphold justice, he even bit them back. Where was the justice? Where was the justice? Aggrieved. Angry. However, they did not dare to vent their anger. Battle Emperor and Pill Hall were like two towering mountains, pressuring them to the point of suffocation. Right now, they were suffering in silence, unable to voice out their bitterness. Qin Feiyong coughed and said with a smile, "Elders, this is just a misunderstanding. Why don't we just let it go?" A few of the elderly elders spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. The others were also trembling with anger. They felt suffocated. It was you who came to the Ling family to cause trouble, but now you're acting like you're magnanimous. How could there be such a shameless person in this world? They clenched their fists tightly. If looks could kill, Qin Feiyong would have been cut into pieces a long time ago. Ling Yunfei looked at them one by one. You can't stand this? But have you ever thought about how I've been living like this for more than 10 years? Have you ever thought about my feelings? This is retribution. No, it's far from enough. I will continue to take revenge on you until you completely collapse. Ling Yunfei mumbled. The seed of hatred in his heart had already started to sprout and grow. Feng Cheng pretended to ponder for a while, then shook his head and said, "No, how can we just let it go after slandering a disciple of the Pill Hall?" Elder Mo said expressionlessly, "That's right. A small family dares to offend the prestige of the Pill Hall. If we don't kill them as a warning, how can the Pill Hall establish itself in Black Bear City?" Qin Feiyong was dumbfounded. He admitted that he was already shameless enough, but he didn't expect these two old men to be even more shameless than him. If anyone was blind enough to provoke them, their future was destined to be a tragedy. "Elders, please be merciful." The head of the Ling family bent down and lowered his arrogant head as he pleaded. In fact, what he wanted to say was, "Please don't go too far." But he suddenly realized that he couldn't say that. Because once he said it, based on Feng Cheng's personality, the Ling family would definitely be in chaos tonight. What a headache. Feng Cheng rubbed his head and said, "Forget it. Since all of you are so pitiful, this old man will not hold a grudge against you. However, this old man hopes that all of you can speak nicely and don't force this old man and old man Mo to use force. If you want to force me to use force, then withdraw the Ling family's men first." Elder Mo said coldly. Although he didn't speak much, every word he said was enough to make people's hearts jump. The meaning behind his words was obvious. As long as he made a move, the Ling clan would be razed to the ground. "Thank you, elders. We will definitely talk nicely," the head of the Ling family said gratefully. The group of elders nodded one after another. This was the tragedy of a family. No matter how strong a family was, they would never dare to challenge the Pill Hall, the Martial Arts Hall, the Royal Family, and the Precious Treasure Pavilion. Feng Cheng said, "Zhang Haotian, if you have something to say, just say it." "Yes." Qin Feiyong nodded and looked at the head of the Ling family. He said, "Please return the high-grade martial technique that you snatched from Ling Yunfei." "Didn't you say that you don't want it?" The head of the Ling family frowned. Reluctance was written all over his face. Qin Feiyong said, "Who said that I don't want it? Besides, even if I don't want it, it wouldn't be your turn to take it. Cut the crap and give it to me." One of the elders moved closer to the head of the Ling family and whispered a few words. The head of the Ling family's eyes lit up. He said, "Zhang Haotian, we have to be reasonable. The city lord made it very clear that Ling Yunfei also had a share. He is a member of the Ling family. The martial technique should belong to the Ling family. I will immediately make a copy for you." Qin Feiyong nodded and said, "All right, let's be reasonable. Before you make a copy, please ask Ling Yunfei's opinion." The head of the Ling family said, "No need to ask. He will definitely agree." Hearing this, Ling Yunfei's heart was suddenly filled with a strong anger. He shouted, "Who said that I would agree? The city lord gave it to me, so it is mine. Why should it belong to the Ling family?" "Little bastard, what did you say?" The head of the Ling family suddenly turned his head and stared at Ling Yunfei with a gloomy face. Cough cough. Feng Cheng coughed and said indifferently, "Are you forcing me to be rough?" No. Elder Feng, don't misunderstand. Head of the Ling family, give him the martial technique. Yes, it's ours that can't run away. It's not that we can't force it. Seeing that the situation was not good, the elders immediately stepped forward and smiled apologetically to Feng Chung while persuading the head of the Ling family. Little bastard, don't regret it. The head of the Ling family's lips moved slightly as he silently spat out this word. Ling Yunfei's body and mind trembled. Noticing Ling Yunfei's abnormality, Qin Feiyong asked in a low voice, "What's wrong?" "They might do something bad to my mother." Ling Yunfei whispered, his eyes full of worry. "Don't worry, I will help you think of a way." Qin Feiyong comforted him and walked to the head of the Ling family. He stretched out his hand and said, "Quickly take it out. Don't be so reluctant." The head of the Ling family simply hated Qin Feiyong. He took out the bamboo slip from his Chenquan bag and threw it on the ground. He sneered and said, "Pick it up yourself." He wanted to use this opportunity to humiliate Qin Feiyong. A dignified head of the family actually plays such a small trick. How ridiculous. The corner of Qin Feiyong's mouth lifted as he stepped on the bamboo slip. True qi gushed out and the bamboo slip shattered, turning into fine powder. What? He actually destroyed the martial arts technique. The group of people of the Ling family was stunned and full of disbelief. Ling Yunfei was also the same. His heart ached. This guy was simply wasting God's gift recklessly. Even Feng Chung and the head of the Ling family found it unbelievable. "You destroyed the martial arts technique in front of us." "Tell me, what do you mean?" The head of the Ling family shouted angrily. "I mean, the treasure in your eyes is worthless in my eyes. How does it feel? Now, are you humiliated or am I humiliated?" Qin Feiyong sneered. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't go too far." The head of the Ling family said word by word. His teeth were chattering and making creaking sounds. Qin Feiyong said innocently, "You're the one who asked for it. Why are you blaming me? Now, let's talk about the second matter. Give me Ling Yunfei's mother." Impossible. The Ling family's patriarch didn't even think about it and flatly refused. The faces of the elders turned gloomy. Moreover, their eyes were even scarier than before. Qin Feiyong's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that it was as he had expected. There was something fishy about this. He asked calmly, "Why is it impossible?" "She's just a weak woman. I really don't understand. What's the use of keeping her?" "This is a family matter of the Ling family. It has nothing to do with you." The head of the Ling family glanced at him coldly and looked at Feng Chung and the head of the Ling family. He cupped his fists and said, "Elders, I can agree to anything but this. I hope you can ask Zhang Haotian to restrain himself." Indeed, he should restrain himself. Otherwise, I'll definitely report this to the King of Yen. At this moment, a dignified voice sounded. The head of the city, the Precious Treasure Pavilion, and the Martial Arts Hall Master arrived one after another. "City Lord, please uphold justice for my Ling family. This Zhang Haotian has the support of the Pill Hall. He's going to turn the world upside down." The people of the Ling family acted as if they saw their savior. They hurriedly ran to the front of the city lord and cried, "Zhang Haotian, what should we do?" Ling Yunfei asked anxiously. "Don't panic. I have my ways," Qin Feiyong said softly. The arrival of the city lord was within his expectations. After all, the city lord didn't like him. How could he just stand by and do nothing after receiving the news? The martial arts hall master said, "Zhang Haotian, you should be satisfied. Go back quickly. Don't mess around here." "I'm not messing around. Since everyone is here, let's get straight to the point. Head of the Ling family, I'll represent Ling Yunfei to officially challenge your son Ling Sheng." Qin Feiyong said. "Challenge?" The head of the Ling family raised his eyebrows. "That's right. Conflicts between martial artists naturally have to be resolved using martial artists' methods. 3 days later, Ling Yunfei and your son Ling Sheng will fight outside the city. If Ling Yunfei loses, not only him, but also me will be at your disposal. If Ling Yunfei wins, you will return his mother to him. Head of the Ling family, do you dare to accept the challenge?" Qin Feiyong looked at him coldly and aggressively. Everyone looked at each other. Was this kid stupid? Didn't he know that Ling Yunfei was just a trash? Feng Cheng's face darkened. He said, "Zhang Haotian, it's too risky." "I don't agree." Qin Feiyong smiled and said, "Wealth comes from danger." Everyone knows this sentence. Moreover, Ling Yunfei is my friend. I can't ignore his matters. Feng Cheng said angrily, He betrayed you and you still treat him as a friend. Is there something wrong with your head? Qin Feiyang said, Elder Feng, thank you for your concern. But I have made up my mind. As long as the head of the Ling family dares to accept the challenge, I won't go back on my words. I can even sign the life and death contract now. Crazy. You're completely crazy. Come back with me immediately. Feng Qing shouted and grabbed Qin Feiyang's arm. He was about to drag him away. Seeing this, the head of the Ling family smiled and said loudly, Zhang Haotian, I accept your challenge. Sign the life and death contract now. Feng Qing shouted, I don't agree. Elder Mo suddenly said, Old Feng, since Zhang Haotian has spoken, he can't go back on his words. Otherwise, people will say that the disciples of the Pill Hall don't keep their words. Why are you doing the same thing? Feng Chung was so anxious that he was about to jump. Old Feng, Old Mo is right. The reputation of the Pill Hall cannot be lost. At this moment, Luo Xiong walked into the hall without any expression on his face. No one knew what he was thinking. You're all crazy. Feng Qing shouted angrily. He turned around and looked at Qin Feiyang. He said, Kid, I'll ask you one last time. Do you really want to sign this life and death contract? Qin Feiyang nodded his head. Xiao Mu, I'm too lazy to care about you. Feng Qing scolded and walked out of the hall to get some fresh air outside. Qin Feiyang was very touched. Although he didn't know what the final outcome would be, at least now, the people of the Pill Hall were truly concerned about him. Especially Feng Qing. The head of the Ling family glanced at Qin Feiyang and shouted impatiently, Someone prepare the ink. Soon, a servant carried a jade tray into the hall and placed it on the table. I'll write the life and death contract for you. The head of the city went forward and took out a piece of white paper. He dipped the brush in the ink and waved it. Small words quickly appeared on the white paper. After a while, the life and death contract was written. Qin Feiyang looked at it carefully and said, Head of the city, I want to add one more condition. The people of the Ling family must not hurt Ling Yunfei's mother. If they violate this, all the major forces will join hands and kill them. The head of the city raised his eyebrows and turned to look at the head of the Ling family. Add. The head of the Ling family said in a deep voice. The head of the city picked up the brush again. After he finished writing, he retreated to the side. The head of the Ling family bit his finger and pressed a fingerprint on the paper. Then he looked at Qin Feiyang and sneered, It's your turn. Don't regret it. Qin Feiyang smiled casually. He cut his finger and pressed a handprint on it. Chapter 70. After signing the life and death contract, the three leaders of the Pill Palace brought Qin Feiyang and left the Ling family. Ling Yunfei also followed behind the four of them. But until now, he was still confused. He didn't know what was going on. As for the life and death contract, it was kept by the city lord himself. Although he had a grudge with Qin Feiyang, he didn't dare to do anything to it. After all the leaders were present. It was already late at night. On the street, not a sound could be heard. Luo Xiong and the other two were also silent. Only the sound of footsteps echoed in the night sky. The atmosphere was a little heavy. Ling Yunfei, since Zhang Haotian chose to help you, you should follow us back to the Pill Palace. When they arrived at the entrance of the Pill Palace, Luo Xiong finally opened his mouth and broke the silence. Thank you, Palace Lord. Ling Yunfei bowed and said. Luo Xiong glanced at him, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, I don't want to ask about other things. I only want to ask one thing. Are you confident? I am. Qin Feiyang nodded. Luo Xiong looked at him deeply and didn't say anything else. He turned around and entered the Pill Palace. Idiot. Bastard. Idiot. Feng Qing cursed a few more times before he stormed off. Zhang Haotian, I will only say one thing. You are now tied to the Pill Palace. You are bound together for good or ill. Do you understand? Elder Mo said expressionlessly. I understand. Qin Feiyang nodded. It's good that you understand. Elder Mo glanced at the two of them and left. Phew. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and turned around to look at Ling Yunfei. Seeing that he lowered his head and didn't say anything, he said, Follow me. Where to? Ling Yunfei was stunned. Outside the city. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he walked towards the eastern city gate. Why are we going outside the city? Ling Yunfei quickly followed him with a belly full of doubts. Why aren't you saying anything? Are you blaming me for making the decision for you? Qin Feiyang asked. No. Ling Yunfei shook his head and asked, Did you really sign the life and death contract? Could it be that he still hadn't come back to his senses? Qin Feiyang's face twitched. His temperament really needed to be sharpened as soon as possible. He asked, "Are you afraid?" Ling Yunfei sighed and said, "I'm a commander without an army. What's there to be afraid of? I'm only afraid of implicating you." In fact, he was not confident. Ling Sheng was a 5-star martial master, and he had mastered 2 superior martial skills. He had the strength of 8 brute elephants. But what about him? He was only a 4-star martial master, and he did not even have a single martial technique. There was no hope for him to win. Unless he could find a perfect martial skill, but there was no perfect martial skill in the entire Black Bear City. Where could he find one? Qin Feiyang said, "I have a perfect martial skill." Ling Yunfei was stunned. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, "To tell you the truth, Ice Crystal Finger, Thunder Wind Palm, and Shifting Smoke Steps are all perfect martial skills." What? Ling Yunfei was shocked. His eyes were filled with disbelief. There was no perfect martial skill in the entire Black Bear City, but this person actually had 3 perfect martial skills. Was he dreaming? Since there are only 3 days, I will only give you 2 perfect martial skills for the time being. One is an auxiliary martial skill, returning to origin steps. The other is a killing martial skill, locking heart killing fist. Qin Feiyang said, "Thank you," Ling Yunfei said gratefully. But in the next moment, his body stiffened, and his face was full of surprise. He originally thought that this person would teach him one of the Ice Crystal Finger, Thunder Wind Palm, and Shifting Smoke Steps. But he did not expect that the martial skills taught to him were actually the other 2. In other words, this person not only mastered 3 perfect martial skills, but 5. God! This guy, who the hell is he? I will only say the cultivation method once. The heart lock killing fist was a very strange killing fist. Lock the opponent's heart and smash it with 1 punch. But there will be no external injuries. It even looks like there is no injury, but in fact, the opponent's heart has been shattered. This is the strangeness of the locking heart killing fist. Qin Feiyang said slowly. Ling Yunfei also hurriedly dispersed the distracting thoughts and listened carefully, memorizing every word deeply in his mind. Unknowingly, the city gate came into sight. Qin Feiyang's words came to an abrupt end, and he asked, "Do you remember?" Ling Yunfei nodded his head. Qin Feiyang said, "The best and fastest way to learn martial skills is through actual combat, so in these 3 days, I want you to enter the Black Bear Mountain and fight with the beasts." Of course, there was another reason. He wanted to use actual combat to sharpen Ling Yunfei's heart. "I will do my best." Ling Yunfei took a deep breath and said solemnly. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "The fate of your mother and I are in your hands. You can only do your best." The 2 of them walked out of the city gate one after the other and entered a dense forest. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "Let's stop here. One last thing, don't die in the Black Bear Mountain." "Don't worry, I will come back alive." Ling Yunfei smiled confidently, turned around, and stepped into the Black Bear Mountain resolutely. When he completely disappeared, Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and Wolf King appeared out of thin air. Wolf King said, "Little Qin Zi, are you really going to train him?" Qin Feiyang sighed, "My enemies are too strong. With my strength alone, I can't compete with them at all." "Even you don't have confidence?" It seems that Brother Wolf has to think about it carefully. Alas, little Qin Zi, Brother Wolf has to make this difficult choice. Don't blame Brother Wolf for being disloyal. From now on, let's part ways. Wolf King sighed. Qin Feiyang's face twitched. Little Qin Zi, all good things must come to an end. Goodbye. Take care of yourself. If one day you are about to die, remember to inform Brother Wolf. Brother Wolf will come to collect your body. Wolf King's eyes were full of tears. He looked back 3 times with reluctance. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang's face darkened and blue veins popped out. Haha, silly. Brother Wolf promises to take care of Ling Yunfei for you. Wolf King laughed sinisterly and ran into the forest without looking back. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Was he being teased by this white-eyed wolf again? Wolf cub, when you come back, I'll deal with you slowly. Qin Feiyang laughed and scolded, then turned and walked towards the city gate. He already had deep feelings for Wolf King. If Wolf King really left, he would be very disappointed. Zhang Haoyan, why did you come back alone? Ling Yunfei? When he came to the city gate, the 2 guards guarding the city gate looked at him doubtfully. How would I know? Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Zhang Haoyan, you are not honest. Don't worry, we won't tell others. The two guards smiled kindly. I really don't know. If you want to know, ask him himself. After saying that, Qin Feiyong entered the city. One of them hurriedly said, Don't go. Just tell us, are you sure you can do it? No. Qin Feiyong said with a smile without looking back. If you are not sure, how can you smile? The guard was stunned. Maybe he is just pretending to be calm. The other guard said disdainfully. He rolled his eyes and said in a low voice, Zhao Lu, do you want to get some benefits? Zhao Lu said, Who doesn't want benefits? But we have to have this opportunity first. There's a chance now. Let's do this, the guard whispered into Zhao Lu's ear. Ling family. After sending the city lord, the martial arts hall master, and the treasure pavilion master away, the Ling family's patriarch got someone to carry Ling Sheng back from the restaurant. Ling Sheng was already in a mess. Lying in the hall, sleeping soundly, no matter who called him, he couldn't wake up. The Ling family's patriarch was angry and shouted, Bring me a basin of water. But at this time, a servant rushed in and said, Patriarch, the guard of the East City Gate, Zhao Lu wants to see you. He is outside the door now. What is he doing here? The Ling family's patriarch was puzzled. The servant said, He said that he has a piece of news to tell you, and it has something to do with Ling Yunfei. Then what are you waiting for? Quickly invite him in. The Ling family's patriarch's eyes lit up as he hurriedly shouted. Yes. The servant hurriedly ran out again. Carry him away for me. Don't embarrass yourself here. The Ling family's patriarch looked at Ling Sheng with disappointment and ordered the few servants beside him. A few servants immediately stepped forward and carried Ling Sheng away quickly. Not long later, Zhao Lu was led into the hall by the servant. He cupped his hands and said, Zhao Lu greets the Ling family's patriarch. The Ling family's patriarch looked at the servant and said, You can leave first. The servant bowed and left. The Ling family's patriarch stood up and greeted Zhao Lu, smiling. Brother Zhao Lu, don't be so polite. Come, please have some tea. Zhao Lu laughed. I still have official business to attend to, so there's no need for tea. Let's talk about business directly. But before that, Ling family's patriarch, don't you have to express your gratitude? Bitch. The Ling family's patriarch cursed and shouted, Butler, immediately prepare 500 gold coins. You want to send me away with 500 gold coins? Zhao Lu secretly sneered and laughed. Ling family's patriarch, I won't hide it from you. This news is worth more than 500 gold coins. The Ling family's patriarch raised his eyebrows and asked, Then how much do you want? At least this much. Zhao Lu stretched out a finger. All right, 1,000 it is. The Ling family's patriarch nodded. Zhao Lu shook his head. No, it's 10,000 gold coins, and it's me and Li Qi 10,000 each. The Ling family's patriarch's eyes flashed with a cold light and shouted, Butler, prepare 20,000 gold coins. Yes. The butler bowed and replied. Soon. He carried another Qinquan bag, returned to the hall, and handed it to Zhao Lu. After Zhao Lu checked it, he immediately smiled and looked at the Ling family's patriarch, saying, Ling Yunfei went to Black Bear Mountain. If he dies in Black Bear Mountain, won't your son win for sure? At that time, how to deal with Zhang Hao Tian, isn't it up to you? Haha, the Ling family's patriarch laughed and cupped his hands. Thank you for your reminder, brother Zhao Lu. Zhao Lu laughed. You're welcome, we're just taking what we need. I'll take my leave. Take care, I won't send you off. The Ling family's patriarch stretched out his hand and smiled. Zhao Lu turned around. But just as he turned around, the Ling family's patriarch's eyes flashed with a cold light, and he slammed his palm on Zhao Lu's back. Puff! Zhao Lu spat out a mouthful of blood and died on the spot. Humph! A little guard wants to take advantage of my Ling family. He really doesn't know what's good for him. Butler, go and kill Li Qi immediately, then bury their bodies near the pill hall and frame Zhang Hao Tian. Don't let anyone see them on the way. After you're done, go to Black Bear Mountain personally and kill that little bastard. The Ling family's patriarch snorted, picked up the Qinquan bag and ordered. Patriarch is wise. Chapter 71. East City Gate. Li Seven was like an ant on a hot pan, pacing back and forth. Dida! A series of footsteps could be heard. Li Seven's spirit was lifted. He hurriedly turned around and saw a black figure striding towards him in the dark. Finally back. Zhao Lu, how many gold coins did you get? He asked excitedly. But the black figure didn't answer. It was dead silent. Xiaolu? What are you doing? Why are you being so mysterious? Li Seven frowned. As the distance got closer, Li Seven finally realized that something was wrong. That black figure wasn't Zhao Lu, and the black figure was carrying a person on his shoulder. Whoosh! Suddenly, the black figure's speed increased tremendously. There was even a ray of white light coming out from his palm. That was true Qi. Li Seven realized that something was wrong and turned around to run. But the black figure was faster. He caught up with him in a few steps and killed Li Seven with one palm. This person was the butler of the Ling mansion. You don't know what's good for you. Butler Ling snorted coldly. He carried the two bodies and walked towards the pill hall. However, he did not notice that another black shadow walked out from behind a house on the street beside the city gate and silently followed behind him. When he arrived at the gate of the pill hall, Butler Ling glanced around and dug a hole. After burying Li Seven and the other person, he covered up the traces and rushed towards the East City gate again. It seems that he wants to frame me. Soon. In the dark, a murmur could be heard. That's right. He was Qin Feiyang. At that time, when Li Seven and the other two were asking all kinds of questions, he had kept an eye on them. He pretended to leave and then hid in the dark to spy on them. As expected, the two of them were very dishonest. But Qin Feiyang didn't expect that the Ling family would kill them. In order to kill me, you guys are really unscrupulous. Since that's the case, it's impolite not to reciprocate. I'll repay you guys properly. Qin Feiyang sneered. He quickly dug up the soil and dragged Li Seven and the other person out. Then, he covered up the hole and covered up the traces. Then, he carried the two bodies and sneaked into the backyard of the Ling family. Along the way, there was no danger. Then, he found a rockery and buried the two bodies behind it. Now, let's just wait and see. With a cold glint in his eyes, he left the Ling family without anyone knowing. Qin Feiyang stopped in front of the pill hall's gate. He raised his head and looked at the night sky. Butler Ling just went to the East City gate. Is he going to assassinate Ling Yunfei? No, I have to go and take a look. Forget it. With Wolf King around, there shouldn't be any accidents. What's more, if I can't even deal with such a small crisis, how can I take charge in the future? Consider this a test for you. Don't disappoint me. After all, I'm betting my fate on you this time. Qin Feiyang mumbled. He turned around and entered the pill hall. Meanwhile, the battle at Black Bear Mountain had already begun. Wolf King immediately sensed that someone was following them. Why would someone come to Black Bear Mountain in the middle of the night? Furthermore, this aura is not weak. No matter who it is necessary to remind Ling Yunfei. Roar! Immediately, it let out a wolf howl. It was especially loud in the forest at night. Wolf! Could it be Qin Feiyang? Both Ling Yunfei and Steward Ling were bewildered. If I can catch Qin Feiyang, it will be a great achievement. Butler Ling mumbled. His old eyes flashed, and he immediately ran towards the direction of the wolf howl. Ling Yunfei was hesitating, but in the end, he still decided to take a look. After 10 breaths, he ran in front of a river. It was the river where Qin Feiyang killed Jiang Chuan and the others. Therefore, he knew that there were many black scale crocodiles hiding in the river. He didn't cross the river rashly, and Wolf King was hiding in a bush on the opposite side of the river. Haha, Qin Feiyang, I finally found you. Suddenly, a hoarse laugh rang out from the forest behind them. It's the butler's voice. Why is he in Black Bear Mountain? Not good, he must be here to kill me. Ling Yunfei had been in the Ling family for more than 10 years, so he naturally recognized Butler Ling's voice. He didn't turn around. He took a few steps back and suddenly swooped down. He stepped on the river with all his strength and jumped high. In a flash, he landed on the other side of the river. Roar! Splash! A few black scale crocodiles jumped out of the water, but it was too late. So it's him. There were no trees blocking the sky above the river. With the help of the moonlight, Butler Ling clearly saw Ling Yunfei. He quickly chased to the river and said with a smile, Yunfei, why are you here? Why are you here again? Ling Yunfei turned to look at him and asked instead of answering. Although he didn't know the real purpose of this person, he felt very uneasy. I'm here to look for medicinal herbs. Butler Ling chuckled. It's really hard for you to look for medicinal herbs in the middle of the night. Ling Yunfei sneered. There's no other way. This is the order of the patriarch. By the way, I heard the wolf howl and chased after you. Did you see anything? Butler Ling asked. I didn't see anything. I won't disturb you looking for medicinal herbs. Goodbye. After Ling Yunfei finished speaking, he turned and quickly ran into the forest. This little bastard, when did he become so vigilant? Butler Ling's eyes were filled with coldness as he suddenly jumped up. Splash! At the same time, more than a dozen black scale crocodiles jumped out of the water, but they couldn't bite him because he jumped too high. However, Wolf King, who was hiding in the bushes, laughed sinisterly. Whoosh! It rushed out of the bushes like an arrow. Seeing that Butler Ling was about to land on the river bank, it bumped into him. Butler Ling immediately cried out in alarm and fell into the river with a thud. The group of black scale crocodiles immediately opened their bloody mouths and pounced. Little guy, although you're a martial ancestor, in the forest at night, Wolf King has 100 ways to make your life worse than death. Wolf King smiled disdainfully and turned to run into the forest. Butler Ling was somewhat confused. Who bumped into him? Just now, he vaguely saw that it was a wolf. He angrily attacked, and after killing the group of black scale crocodiles, he jumped out of the water and landed on the shore, but he couldn't even find a shadow. Wolf King was long gone. Although he killed the black scale crocodiles, the fangs of the black scale crocodiles also made him pay a heavy price. Several parts of his body had been torn off. His entire body was dripping with blood. A heart-wrenching pain assaulted every nerve in his body, and at the same time, it also assaulted his rationality. Ah! Damn bastards, I won't forgive you. He roared, and like a mad bull, he chased after Wolf King and Ling Yunfei. He really wants to kill me. Ling Yunfei heard the roar from afar, and his heart sank. But soon after, a cold smile crept onto his face. The Black Bear Mountain was vast and boundless. As long as he got rid of this person, there was nothing to worry about. But why did he say you guys? Could it be that there are other people nearby? With a stomach full of doubts, he turned and rushed in another direction. Wolf King relied on his sharp sense of smell and followed behind him. But it wasn't easy for them to get rid of Butler Ling. After all, Butler Ling was a martial ancestor realm expert. His speed was much faster than them. Thus, a competition of pursuit unfolded. At the same time, at the center of the pill hall, there was a pitch-black hall. It was more than 100 feet tall and occupied an area of a few hundred feet. It was majestic and imposing. This was the Pill Fire Hall. It was the place where the disciples of the Pill Hall refined pills. It was also one of the important places of the Pill Hall. After Qin Feiyong returned to the Pill Hall, he went straight to this place. The pitch-black door was tightly shut. On both sides of the door, there were two middle-aged men sitting cross-legged. They were the deacon elders of the Pill Hall. They were in charge of guarding the Pill Fire Hall. The Pill Fire Hall was a hole, and there was only one entrance. Qin Feiyong stopped at the door and cupped his hands. Disciple Zhang Haoyan greets the two deacon elders. Ling Yan brought him here before, so he knew a thing or two about their identity and strength. Similarly, the two deacon elders also knew Qin Feiyong. The man on the left smiled and said, "Let me see your identity token." After taking out his identity token from his Qinquan bag, Qin Feiyong handed it over with both hands. On the front of the token, there were two big words carved on it. Pill Hall. On the back, there was Qin Feiyong's name and the number 110. The deacon elder looked at it for a while and returned the token to Qin Feiyong. Then he pushed open the stone door and smiled. "Go in, turn right and walk to the end. It's your cultivation room." "Thank you, elder." Qin Feiyong cupped his hands and thanked him. Then he strode into the Pill Fire Hall. The temperature in the hall could only be described with two words. Cool. Although it was a place for refining pills, it wasn't hot at all. The deacon elder reminded, "Zhang Haoyan, when you come out, put your token in the dent beside the stone door. The stone door will open automatically." After saying that, he closed the stone door. Qin Feiyong turned around and saw an inch-deep dent on the wall beside the stone door. It was the same size and shape as the token. The higher the number of the alchemy room, the purer the alchemy fire. "Looks like I have to work harder and get the number 1 alchemy room," Qin Feiyong muttered. He walked into the corridor on the right and walked towards the end. On the walls on both sides, there was a stone door at a certain distance. There were numbers on the stone doors. However, he didn't see anyone in such a big corridor. Rumble. When Qin Feiyong passed by the number 4 alchemy room, the stone door suddenly opened. A strong medicinal fragrance came to his nose. Qin Feiyong stopped in his tracks and turned his head around to look curiously. He saw an old acquaintance walking out with a jade bottle in his hand. It was Chengyi. Jiang Haoyan? Chengyi was stunned. He smiled and said, "What a coincidence. Are you here to refine pills?" Qin Feiyang nodded. However, he muttered in his heart, "Isn't this nonsense? If you're not here to refine pills, are you here to sightsee? Then what alchemy room are you in? Look at my brain. I've become muddled from refining pills. You're engaged to Elder Feng's granddaughter. If nothing goes wrong, you'll be a family sooner or later. He'll definitely take extra care of you and give you a room near the front. It's good to have connections. You're not like us. We've worked hard to climb up step by step." Chapter 72. Looking at Chengyi's face, Qin Feiyang really wanted to slap him. Wasn't it just a 6th-level mental strength? What was there to show off? He wanted to teach this person a lesson, but on second thought, it was a waste of time to argue with such a clown. "Let's talk when we have time." He smiled and strode toward the alchemy room. "Unhappy? No wonder, after hearing what I said, even a thick-skinned person would feel ashamed." Chengyi sneered in his heart, but he didn't leave. He wanted to know which alchemy room Qin Feiyang was in. Seeing Qin Feiyang stop at the door of the last alchemy room, his eyes suddenly flashed with a touch of surprise. It seems that Elder Feng doesn't take care of him very well. He muttered to himself. Immediately, he revealed his white teeth and smiled. "Jiang Haoyan, my alchemy room is number 4. The alchemy fire is several times purer than yours. If you need it, come to me at any time." Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Was it not over? But before he could speak, Chengyi said again, "Don't thank me. It's my duty to take care of the new disciples. If there's anything you don't understand, remember to ask me." After saying that, he turned and walked toward the door, his face full of disdain. "I have a bad temper. Alchemy room number 4, right? Okay, I'll fight with you. Let's see how long you can be proud." Qin Feiyang sneered, turned back, walked into the alchemy room, and closed the stone door. The size of the alchemy room was about 5 meters, and it was square. In the center, there was a stone platform with an alchemy furnace on it. The alchemy furnace was the size of a wash basin. It was dark and engraved with unknown patterns. It looked a bit old. In a corner next to it, there was an old futon. But apart from these, there was nothing else. It seemed very empty. Finally, alchemy. Qin Feiyang glanced around and looked at the alchemy furnace on the stone platform. He was a little excited and a little nervous. 5 years ago, he never thought that one day he would walk into the alchemy room and personally refine pills. But, while he hated those people, he was also grateful to them. If it weren't for that unforeseen event, he would at most still be that insufferably talented and insufferably arrogant prince. He wouldn't be as sensible as he was now, nor would he be able to break through the limits of a martial artist and open the first gate of potential. He wouldn't know what hardship was and what it meant to cherish. Of course, what was lost was important. But the harvest was even more important. "Who?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and let out a long breath. Dispelling the distracting thoughts in his mind, he took out the healing pill formula and studied it carefully. After recording every single step in his mind, Zhang Xian took out the medicinal herbs required for the recovery pill and placed them on the stone platform beside the cauldron in order, so that he could proceed with the next step. Everything was ready. "Jiang Haoyan, are you there? We heard that you were concocting pills, so we came to give you some pointers. Open the door." Outside, suddenly there was a commotion. "Pointers?" Qin Feiyang sneered. Most likely, he had come here on purpose to monitor him. "I'll satisfy you." He walked over and opened the stone door. It was Ling Yan who entered his sight. Beside him was a man and a woman who looked to be 17 or 18 years old. They were dressed in gorgeous clothes, and there was a hint of arrogance between their brows. Ling Yan smiled and said, "Jiang Haoyan, let me introduce you. This is senior sister Lu Hong, and this is senior brother Ji Jin. They both have level 5 mental strength and are famous figures in Black Bear City." Qin Feiyang glanced at the two of them and said with a smile, "Greetings, senior brother and senior sister." Lu Hong said, "We're all from the same sect. Don't be so polite." Ji Jin looked up and down at Qin Feiyang and said lightly, "We heard that this is your first time concocting pills, so we discussed coming over to take a look and give you some pointers. Junior brother Jiang won't blame us for coming uninvited, right? It's my honor to have the two of you here. How would I dare to blame you? Please come in." Qin Feiyang retreated to the side, revealing a flattered look. But in his heart, there was a chill. Chengyi, you're courting death. The only people who knew that he was concocting pills now, other than Chengyi, were the two deacon elders. The deacon elders would definitely not say much. Except for Chengyi. He knew Chengyi's purpose. It was nothing more than wanting to know his talent in concocting pills. But he couldn't bring himself to do it, so he let Ling Yan and the other two come. First, he racked his brains to get the level of his mental strength, and now he let people monitor him. In order to control his information, this person was really scheming. Ling Yan and the other two walked into the concocting room one after another. After Qin Feiyang closed the stone door, he walked to the front of the furnace, closed his eyes, and held his breath. The three of them looked at each other, and a trace of disdain flashed across their eyes at the same time. They stood at the side and watched with their arms crossed. They didn't come to give pointers at all, but to watch a show. A moment later, Qin Feiyang opened his eyes. His gaze was as calm as water as he lowered his head to look at the stone table in front of him. At the edge, there was a small white square that looked like a button. He stretched out his hand, covered the button with his big hand, and pressed it hard. Crack! Accompanied by an ear-piercing sound, the center of the stone table, under the pill furnace, suddenly split open, revealing a fist-sized black hole. Buzz! The next moment, a burst of pill fire rushed out from the black hole. Heat waves surged. The temperature in the concocting room rose rapidly. Before long, beads of sweat appeared on Qin Feiyang's forehead. The bottom of the pill furnace was also burning red rapidly, and waves of heat were steaming. Immediately after, with a thought, a wave of mental strength surged out from the top of his head and headed straight for the pill fire. Although the pill fire did not come into direct contact with his body, there was still a strong burning sensation that spread through his mental strength continuously. For the first time, he was caught off guard and quickly retracted his mental strength. After taking a deep breath, he controlled his mental strength and charged towards the pill fire once more. The first step of concocting pills was to control the pill fire. That was because every herb required a different level of heat. If the temperature of the pill furnace was too high, the herbs would burn instantly and turn into black smoke. However, if the temperature was too low, the essence of the herbs would not be extracted. Therefore, one had to be precise. However, no matter who it was impossible to be precise on the first try. One had to adjust and get used to it slowly. About an hour later, Qin Feiyang's mental strength gradually adapted to the high temperature of the pill fire. Until the end, his mental strength and pill fire blended together as one. It was as though the pill fire was a part of his body and he could not feel any heat at all. This meant that the first step was a success. Qin Feiyang heaved a sigh of relief. With a thought, he adjusted the pill fire to the minimum. Thereafter, he transferred a wisp of mental strength from his consciousness and wrapped it around a jade-green herb before placing it into the pill furnace. So fast! The three of them exchanged glances with a look of disbelief. The fusion of mental strength and pill fire was not something that could be done easily. Jijin asked in a low voice, Ling Yan, how long did you take to fuse your mental strength and pill fire back then? Ling Yan replied, 2 months. What about you guys? Jijin replied in a low voice, a month. Lu Hong said, same for me. If I remember correctly, Chengyi also took 10 days. However, this person only took an hour. It's unbelievable. The higher the level of mental strength, the faster it fuses with pill fire. Looks like he lied to us. He doesn't have level 5 mental strength. His mental strength is even stronger than Chengyi's. Jijin clenched his fists and a cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Only the three of them could hear his weak voice. This bastard actually dared to lie to us. He's courting death. When Lu Hong and the other woman heard this, strands of bone-piercing coldness appeared in their eyes. However, it was quickly covered up by them. While the three of them were discussing in private, Qin Feiyang was also constantly adjusting the temperature. As the temperature in the pill furnace became more and more balanced, the medicinal herb also slowly emitted a rich medicinal fragrance. Finally, Qin Feiyang controlled the temperature to 30%. This was the precise temperature required for that medicinal herb. Under the scorching temperature, the herb was constantly withering. Moreover, from the herb, wisps of dark green mist were constantly overflowing. Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. He hurriedly controlled his mental strength and wrapped the mist to protect it from evaporation. Finally, The herb turned into ashes. The mist gathered together and condensed into a drop of dark green liquid. It was suspended in the pill furnace and emitted a hazy luster. There was also a sense of spirituality. This was the essence of the herb, also known as the spiritual liquid. Qin Feiyang was already sweating profusely at this moment. However, he didn't dare to be distracted. He repeated the process and also put the second herb into the pill furnace. He began to adjust the pill fire and refine the spiritual liquid. Alchemy was a delicate job. Not only was it cumbersome and complicated, but it also had to be very careful. The slightest mistake would result in failure. Qin Feiyang also deeply understood the difficulty of alchemy. This was not only a test of a person's patience, but also a test of a person's perseverance. Ling Yan and the other two were already dumbfounded. They clearly remembered that during the first alchemy, they didn't know how many herbs they had to waste before they succeeded. However, this bastard actually succeeded in refining the spiritual liquid in one try. Wasn't this control a little too strong? If they didn't see that Qin Feiyang's movements were still very unfamiliar, they definitely wouldn't believe that it was Qin Feiyang's first alchemy. The word shame was clearly written on the three's faces. They said that they were going to guide this person, but now it seemed that this person was the one guiding them. At the same time, their hearts were filled with jealousy. Letting such a person stay in the pill palace would not only threaten their position, but also take away everything they had. Qin Feiyang didn't know what the three were thinking, and he didn't have the time to care about it. There were 8 kinds of herbs for the healing pill. He had already refined the spiritual liquid of 7 kinds of herbs. Dozens of breaths passed. The spiritual liquid of the 8th kind of herb was finally refined. Now it was the last step. Fuse the spiritual liquid of the 8 kinds of herbs together. Similarly, this was also the most crucial step. During the fusion, it had to be done very gently. It couldn't be disturbed by the outside world. Otherwise, if he lost his mind and didn't control it well, not only would the spiritual liquid be wasted, the furnace might even explode. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath. He controlled his mental strength and let the 8 kinds of spiritual liquid slowly get closer. Ouch, my stomach hurts. Seeing that the 8 kinds of spiritual liquid were about to fuse, Ling Yan suddenly hugged his stomach and roared. Bang! Clang! Chapter 73. The explosion of the elixir furnace was like a clap of thunder, causing Qin Feiyang's ears to buzz. The fragments flew everywhere like sharp blades. A few wounds appeared on Qin Feiyang's body instantly. His flesh was torn apart, and he was dripping with blood. There was even a palm-sized fragment that entered his chest and was only an inch away from his heart. In other words, if the fragment entered another inch and hit his heart, even an immortal would not be able to save him. However, he stood on the spot as if he could not feel pain. He stared at the destroyed stone platform in silence. His entire body was covered in dust, and he was in a sorry state. Zhang Haotian, why did you cause such a big commotion? Are you all right? Open the door. Hearing the news, the 2 deacon elders hurried in and shouted anxiously outside the door. However, Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear. However, his hands slowly clenched tightly. Ling Yan and the other 2 at the side also looked at each other. They did not expect that the furnace would explode. This is too big. Let's retreat. Lu Hong tugged at Ling Yan and the other 2's sleeves. The 2 of them shuddered and immediately turned to leave. Boom! The stone door opened. A cloud of dust and smoke surged out. The 2 deacon elders waved their hands and looked at Ling Yan and the other 2. They frowned and asked, what happened? The furnace exploded. Ling Yan hurriedly said before running out of the alchemy room with Lu Hong. They hurriedly ran outside. Furnace exploded? The 2 deacon elders were stunned and rushed in. They were shocked when they saw the messy elixir refining room. They looked at Qin Feiyang again. He was dripping with blood. Especially when they saw the fragment in Qin Feiyang's chest. Their hearts almost jumped out. Zhang Haotian, are you all right? Take this healing elixir. Don't move. I'll help you take out the fragment. The 2 of them each took out a healing elixir, and the other reached out to take the fragment. However, at this moment, Qin Feiyang turned around and walked past the 2 of them, heading outside step by step. Even Zhang Haotian failed on his first attempt. Yes. Don't be so depressed. Just try a few more times, and you'll definitely succeed. The 2 of them were stunned. They hurriedly chased after her and comforted her softly. Many thanks to the 2 elders, but the cauldron explosion is not my fault. Qin Feiyang said gloomily. This time, Ling Yan and the other two had completely enraged him. The two deacon elders looked at each other with bewilderment in their eyes. Could it be because of Ling Yan and the other two? No matter what the reason is, healing is more important. Yes, if you don't stop the bleeding, you'll die. The two of them were burning with anxiety. The hall master, Elder Feng, and Elder Mo had personally given them a death order. Even if they had to die, they had to protect this kid. From this, it could be seen how important this kid was to the three magnates. If anything were to happen, they wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. The door was open. Qin Feiyang strode out, leaving behind blood-red footprints. He stood on the stone stairs outside the door and looked up. He saw Ling Yan and the other two walking towards a large hall, chatting and laughing along the way. And they were laughing at him. Two elders, I'm fine. Don't worry. Qin Feiyang turned his head and grinned at the two deacon elders. Then he used the smoke-gathering steps and chased after the three of them. The two deacon elders were shocked in their hearts, because they read a trace of cold murderous intent in Qin Feiyang's smile. Then they looked at Qin Feiyang, who was rushing towards Ling Yan and the other two. They immediately realized that something was wrong. Let's go and take a look. The two of them hurriedly chased after Qin Feiyang. Ling Yan and the other two also noticed Qin Feiyang behind them. They turned their heads to look. Immediately, their pupils shrank. The current Qin Feiyang was covered in blood. His face was as cold as ice. Under the moonlight, he looked like a blood-soaked azura. They couldn't help but feel scared. Zhang Haotian, what are you trying to do? Ling Yan shouted. Qin Feiyang didn't say anything. He moved more than 10 meters in one step and quickly approached them. Not good. He wants to kill us. Let's go. Ji Jin's expression changed. He turned around and began to escape. Kill us? Does he dare? Ling Yan was disdainful. He would believe it if Zhang Haotian said that he scolded them. However, the Pill Hall had a rule to not kill fellow disciples. Even if Qin Feiyang had more guts, he wouldn't dare. Lu Hong also thought that Qin Feiyang wouldn't dare. Therefore, not only did she not escape, she even stared at Qin Feiyang arrogantly and said, Zhang Haotian, this is the Pill Hall, not outside. You better keep your temper and behave. Behave? Now, I will tell you what the rules are. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. He took a few steps forward and grabbed Ling Yan's hair. He pulled it down forcefully. At the same time, he raised his knee and kicked Ling Yan's lower abdomen. Ah, Ling Yan screamed on the spot. Didn't you have a stomachache? Now I will treat you. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. He threw Ling Yan on the ground and stepped on Ling Yan's lower abdomen. Ah! Ling Yan screamed crazily. His screams were heart-wrenching. His face was distorted from the pain. How do you feel? Qin Feiyang grinned and said, I am going to kill you. Ling Yan screamed hysterically. He crawled up and charged towards Qin Feiyang. Humph! Qin Feiyang coldly snorted. His body tilted slightly as his fist ferociously attacked. His fist sent Ling Yan flying and similarly landed on Ling Yan's lower abdomen. Ouch! Ling Yan screamed like a pig being slaughtered. His face turned into the color of a pig's liver. With a bang, he fell into a bush. Even the ground caved in. Then, he couldn't get up anymore. He curled up and screamed miserably. The two deacon elders ran over and saw this scene. Their faces changed as they shouted, Zhang Haotian, don't mess around. I am not messing around. Qin Feiyang said indifferently. He turned around and looked at Lu Hong. Lu Hong was already dumbfounded. She didn't expect this person to dare to make a move in the Pill Palace. I don't hit women, but it doesn't mean that I don't dare to. Don't provoke me again. Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Hong with disdain. He walked past her and chased after Ji Jin. Zhang Haotian, stop right there. Lu Hong suddenly shouted. Her face was as cold as ice. In the entire Pill Palace, other than Cheng Yi, no one dared to fight with her among the disciples. Not even Ji Jin. Since the beginning, she had always thought of herself as a proud daughter of the heavens. But now, she was being looked down upon by a new disciple. Qin Feiyang's look of disdain seriously hurt her self-esteem. But Qin Feiyang acted as if he didn't hear it. I told you to stop. Didn't you hear me? Lu Hong was burning with anger. She turned around and pounced towards Qin Feiyang with a murderous look. True qi gushed out from her palm. Qin Feiyang slowed down. A cold light flashed in his eyes. This is going to be a mess. The two deacon elders looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with anxiety. One of them said, He Wu, you go and save Ling Yan. I will stop them. He Wu nodded and walked towards Ling Yan. But he suddenly turned around and shouted, "Guba, hurry up. Otherwise, someone will really die." "I know," Guba replied and chased after the two at full speed. He cursed, "These little bastards are really troublesome." At this moment, Lu Hong had already caught up with Qin Feiyong. "How dare you look down on me? I will make you pay the price." Qing Yuan palm. She let out a fierce shout and fiercely slapped Qin Feiyong's back with her palm that had been accumulating power for a long time. Qing Yuan palm was a superior martial arts technique. She was a 4-star martial master. So the strength of this palm was equivalent to the strength of 7 brute elephants. The wind from the palm whistled and sand and stones flew. But Qin Feiyong suddenly turned around and slammed his palm out as well. There was an ear-piercing sound of wind and thunder. Bang! The two palms met. Lu Hong spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. Her face turned pale in an instant. In the end, she staggered and sat on the ground. "How is this possible? Aren't you also a 4-star martial master? How can your strength be stronger than mine?" She couldn't believe it. Qin Feiyong pursed his lips with a trace of disdain and said, "You are a typical example of shameless people. Does your butt hurt? Do you want me to find someone to rub it for you? Bastard, I will slap you to pieces." Lu Hong immediately glared and gnashed her teeth. She stood up and pounced towards Qin Feiyong. Slap! Qin Feiyong stretched out his big hand and slapped her in the face. Lu Hong was directly sent flying and rolled on the ground. There was a bloody palm print on the left side of her face. It was burning with pain. Even her cheeks were quickly swollen. There was a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. Her hair was disheveled, and she was in a sorry state. "This is the last warning. Don't provoke me. Otherwise, even if you are a woman, I will kill you." Qin Feiyong left these words and quickly turned to leave. "Are you okay?" Guba ran over and squatted in front of Lu Hong. He asked with concern. Lu Hong said with grievance, "Elder Gu, Zhang Haotian is causing trouble out of nothing. He has no respect for the law and hurt his fellow disciples. You must punish him severely. I will report this matter to the hall master. You take care of your injuries." Guba patted her shoulder and sighed deeply. He continued to chase Qin Feiyong. He was quite puzzled. How could this kid be so fast? At the same time, Ji Jin was hiding behind a large hall, gasping for air and sweating profusely. It's too scary. This person can't be provoked. He began to regret it now. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have caused trouble even if he was beaten to death. It should be safe to hide here. He looked outside and saw Qin Feiyong standing more than 10 meters away, scanning the surroundings. "Hey, senior brother Ji Jin, what are you peeping at? I know you must be looking at a beauty. Let Fat Lord take a look." But suddenly, a suspicious voice sounded behind him. A fat man with a big head and big ears snuck up behind Ji Jin. Ji Jin's face changed. He hurriedly turned around and covered Fatso's mouth. He shouted in a low voice, "Damn Fatso, what are you shouting about?" Fatso revealed a smirk. There really was a beauty there before. You really know how to join in the fun. Ji Jin cursed angrily. He turned around and stuck his head out again. Before he had time to look, a white figure suddenly appeared in front of him, blocking his line of sight. Who else could it be but Qin Feiyong? Ji Jin's face suddenly became incomparably pale. "Damn, it's a man?" Fatso was stunned. A trace of disdain crawled up in his eyes. He laughed and said, "Senior brother Ji Jin, I didn't expect you to like men? TSK, TSK, TSK. Your taste is really heavy." "Shut up." Ji Jin suddenly turned around and shouted at him. "Senior brother, don't be embarrassed. Don't worry, I promise to help you keep this secret." Fatso patted his chest hard and said righteously, "Where did this top quality come from?" Chapter 74. Fatso also raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyong. He smiled and cupped his fists. "I'm Qin Feiyong. Nice to meet you." His sarcastic tone made Qin Feiyong feel goosebumps all over his body. Ji Jin looked at Qin Feiyong and said angrily, "Damn Fatso, can you keep your mouth shut?" Okay, I won't say anything. You guys continue to be intimate. Fat Lord will be the good guy and keep watch for you guys." Fatso looked at the two of them and gave them a "I understand" look. He then walked away with a smirk, shaking his butt and whistling a tune. Ji Jin glared at Fatso and turned to Qin Feiyong. He smiled apologetically. "He's just like that. Don't bother with him." Qin Feiyong said coldly, "You don't have to worry about him. Worry about yourself. Me. Jijin was stunned. He pretended to be confused and asked, "What about me?" Ling Yan was the one who complained of a stomachache. "Shouldn't you go and settle the score with him?" Qin Feiyang said, "Okay, I'll give you a chance. Did Chang'e ask you to come and cause trouble?" Jijin hurriedly waved his hand. No. I was just curious. It has nothing to do with Senior Chang'e." Qin Feiyang's eyes were cold. He didn't say anything else. He reached out his hand and slapped at Jijin's face. "Jiang Haotian, I advise you not to push your luck." Jijin punched out. Suddenly, a strong wind blew and sand turned into stones. The strength of this punch was equivalent to the strength of 6 elephants. Obviously, he was prepared for this. 3-star martial master, weaker than Lu Hong. "You dare to make a move?" Binding tiger hand. Qin Feiyang bent his 5 fingers like an eagle's claw and brushed past Jijin's fist. Then he turned his wrist and grabbed Jijin's arm. At the same time, a ferocious glint appeared in his eyes. Driving his jinqi, Zhang Xian exerted his strength and broke Jijin's arm. With a cry of agony, Jijin's arm was fractured on the spot. Why are they fighting? When Fatso heard the commotion, he stopped and turned around to look at the two of them. His eyes were filled with shock. Were they not lovers? Was it an enemy? Or was it because one party cheated and the other party's love turned into hate? Qin Feiyang said, "Tell me, did Chang'e send you here?" "No," Jijin roared. Still not being honest. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly and kicked Jijin's knee fiercely. Crack! Immediately, his knee snapped. Jijin's body went soft, and he directly knelt on the ground, groaning miserably. How ruthless. When Fatso saw this, he was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. "Can you tell me now?" Qin Feiyang looked down at Jijin from above. His gaze was bone-chilling. Jijin's body trembled and he hurriedly said, I'll tell you. Chang'e sent us here. He wants to know your talent in alchemy and wants us to create some trouble for you and embarrass you." "Sure enough," Qin Feiyang whispered. "I can't help it. Chang'e has level 6 spiritual force and is well-liked by the elders and palace masters. It can even be said that among the disciples, he can cover the sky with one hand. If I don't listen to him, I guarantee that I won't have a good life in the future. Jiang Haotian, I beg you, let me go this time. I promise that I won't provoke you in the future." Jijin pleaded. Covering the sky with one hand, he really thinks of himself as someone important. Qin Feiyang sneered. He moved like lightning and broke Jijin's other arm. He said indifferently, "I'll let you go this time, but if there's a next time," Jijin hurriedly said, "there definitely won't be a next time, I swear. That's for the best." Qin Feiyang laughed disdainfully, raised his head and looked at Fatso, then turned and left. "So he's Jiang Haotian," Fatso muttered, his eyes filled with fear. At this time, Guba finally found him. It wasn't because his speed wasn't as fast as Qin Feiyang's. It was because it was the middle of the night and it was dark everywhere. There was only the weak moonlight and candlelight. If it wasn't for Jijin's screams, he would have lost him. He stopped in front of Qin Feiyang and asked, "What did you do to Jijin?" Qin Feiyang said, "I only broke his 2 arms and 1 leg." "What?" Guba was shocked and hurriedly ran to the back of the hall. When he saw Jijin lying on the ground with a distorted face and constantly groaning, his face became extremely ugly. Guba shouted, "Jiang Haotian, what the hell is going on? You must give me a clear explanation today, otherwise I can only bring you to see the hall master." Qin Feiyang said, "Sure, it just so happens that I also want an explanation. Let's go now." Guba was furious, but there was a sense of powerlessness in his heart. He nodded and said, "All right, we'll go now. Bring Ling Yan and Lu Hong, and go find the hall master." He shouted again, picked up Jijin, and walked past Qin Feiyang along a small path towards the hall where Luo Xiong was. Fatso looked at the 3 of them sneakily, then turned around and ran away. "Stop," Qin Feiyang said. "He's not calling me, he's definitely not calling me." Fatso muttered and couldn't help but quicken his pace. Qin Feiyang said, "Damn Fatso, if you don't stop, don't blame me for being impolite." Fatso's face changed, and he fled for his life. Qin Feiyang activated Luo Yen's steps, and with a few strides, he caught up to Fatso and reached out to grab the clothes on his back. However, Fatso, without saying a word, took off his clothes and continued to flee. Looking at the fat on his body that was trembling crazily, Qin Feiyang's face could not help but twitch. He did not expect this guy to be so slippery. Shwa! He chased after him again and lightly hooked his leg. Fatso immediately fell to the ground and ate a mouthful of mud. Pa pa pa. Fatso got up, spat out the mud in his mouth, and looked at Qin Feiyong pleadingly, saying, "Big brother, please spare me. I'm just a passerby. Just pretend that you didn't see me, okay?" Seeing that, Qin Feiyong could not help but want to laugh, but his face was cold and said, "The point is, I saw it, and you also heard it." Fatso was like an eggplant that was sunburned, and immediately drooped his head. Qin Feiyong casually threw the clothes on Fatso's body and said with a faint smile, "Put on your clothes and leave quickly. As long as you tell the truth, you will benefit a lot." "Benefits?" Fatso sneered while putting on his clothes. He muttered, "If I lose my life, no matter how many benefits there are, it's useless." Qin Feiyong was surprised. This Fatso's brain did not seem to be simple. He smiled without batting an eyelid. "Don't worry, no one will harm you." After Fatso put on his clothes, he tidied up his hair and asked very narcissistically, "Zhang Haotian, is Fat Lord handsome?" "Handsome?" Qin Feiyong nodded. Fatty chuckled. Lord Fatty knew it. Being fat doesn't necessarily mean that you're ugly. However, although Fat Lord is handsome, he is not stupid. "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyong pretended to be confused. Although Fat Lord's interpersonal relationships in the Pill Palace are not bad, he is still a second-rate character. So, no matter if it's you, Cheng-Yi Ji-jin, or that bitch Lu Hong, I can't afford to offend any of them. But this time, Fat Lord will definitely offend one of them, and he will definitely have a hard time in the future. Fatso sighed and said worriedly, "Ah." Qin Feiyong was surprised. He did not expect this Fatso to be so insightful. He was sure that many people in the Pill Palace were confused by this Fatso's appearance. He looked stupid on the outside, but he was actually a very smart guy. "Don't worry, with me here, they won't dare to do anything to you." Qin Feiyong patted his shoulder and found out that Fatso's clothes were soaked with sweat. He was a bit nervous. He comforted, don't be nervous, I am here. It's a tragedy to have you here. The wind is blowing, the water is cold, the hero will never return. Let's go, we can't escape anyway. Today, Fat Lord will sacrifice his life for a righteous cause." Fatso rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyong and walked towards the small path with a solemn expression. Qin Feiyong's face twitched. Wasn't it just going to be a witness? Was there a need to be so pessimistic? What a weirdo. In the east, in a secluded corner, 3 courtyards stood side by side. In the courtyard, flowers were blooming, and the trees were verdant, full of spring. Here, it was the residence of Luo Xiong, Feng Cheng, and Elder Mo. However, there were no lights in the 3 courtyards, and it was pitch black, showing that the 3 of them were resting. Gu Ba carried Ji Jin and came to the courtyard in the middle and said loudly, "Palace Master, Gu Ba requests to see you." "What's the matter?" After a while, Luo Xiong's voice came from the pavilion. Gu Ba said, "Zhang Haotian seriously injured Ji Jin. Lu Hong, Ling Yan, please interrogate him personally." There was no response from the pavilion. But after a few breaths, the lights in the 3 courtyards were lit. Luo Xiong, Feng Cheng, and Elder Mo pushed open the door at almost the same time, put on their coats, and walked out. Looking at Ji Jin's miserable state, Feng Cheng looked at Gu Ba and frowned. What happened to cause such a big commotion? Gu Ba shook his head. "I'm not sure about the specific situation, but it seems to have something to do with Zhang Haotian's furnace explosion." "Palace Master, 2 elders, it was Zhang Haotian who exploded his furnace while refining pills, but in the end, he blamed it on us, and even broke my 2 arms and 1 leg. Please uphold justice for this disciple." Ji Jin had an aggrieved face, crying to the 3 of them. At this time, he also carried Ling Yan, pulled Lu Hong, and ran over in large strides. Lu Hong directly knelt on the ground, bowed, and said, "Palace Master and Elder, please uphold justice for me." After He Wu put down Ling Yan also lay on the ground, clutching his stomach, and said with snot and tears, "Palace Master, that Zhang Haotian is really too much. Not only did he injure us, he even tried to kill us, Palace Master. Please punish him severely." "What the hell is this kid doing?" Elder Feng muttered, feeling rather angry in his heart. Elder Mo raised his eyebrows and asked, "Why were you in Zhang Haotian's pill refining room at that time?" Ling Yan said aggrievedly, "We saw that it was his first time refining pills, so we took the initiative to go, wanting to give him some pointers. We had good intentions, but who would have thought that after the furnace exploded, he would actually vent his anger on us? This is too much." Luo Xiong and the other 2 looked at each other and couldn't help but frown. Pretend, continue pretending, I'll see how long you can pretend. At this moment, Qin Feiyong walked over slowly, his eyes full of ridicule. But Situ Tianyu, who was behind him, became even more nervous than before when he saw that the 3 big shots were all present. Chapter 75. Qin Feiyong dragged Fatso in front of the 3 giants. Seeing that Fatso followed, Ji Jin's expression changed slightly, and he said in a deep voice, "Fatso, what are you doing here? Does this have anything to do with you?" There was a hint of threat in his eyes. Originally, the fatty was still quite nervous, but when he saw Ji Jin's unreasonable attitude, he immediately became annoyed and said, "Could it be that you don't know that Lord Fatty has a hobby, which is to fight for justice?" Ji Jin's gaze darkened. Beside him, Ling Yan and Lu Hong looked at Ji Jin with suspicious eyes. Qin Feiyong swept his gaze across the 3 of them and sneered, "Fat Lord, let's cut the crap and get down to business." "All right." Fatso chuckled and rolled up his sleeves as if he was ready to go all out. "Cough." Fengcheng coughed and said, "If anyone dares to make a move in front of me, don't let me break your bones." Fatso shrunk his neck and hurriedly put down his sleeves. He smiled obsequiously and said, "Elder Feng, this is just a habit. I'm not going to make a move. Please don't misunderstand." Fengcheng said with a dark face, "Cut the crap and spit it out." All right. Fatso nodded repeatedly and told him everything that he had heard previously. How did Fatso know? Ling Yan's expression changed drastically as he turned to look at Ji Jin and asked silently. However, Ji Jin's heart was extremely bitter at this moment. This time, not only did he offend Jiang Haotian, he also offended Cheng Yi. Sigh. Why was his life so tough? At this moment, Fatso was almost done. He looked at Luo Xiong and the other 2 and said, "That's what happened." In other words, the 3 of them were used by Cheng Yi. Fengcheng asked, "Then what's with the explosion?" Fatso shook his head and said, "I don't know about that. You have to ask Jiang Haotian." At that time, I was fusing with the spirit liquid, and it was the most critical moment. However, Ling Yan suddenly roared that his stomach hurt. Everyone knows that this is my first time refining pills. How can I withstand such interference? The pill furnace exploded, and a piece of it entered my chest. It's still here, only an inch away from my heart. Qin Feiyong pointed at his chest and said in a deep voice. The 3 magnates looked at Qin Feiyong's chest, and their expressions changed. "Why didn't you take it out first? If you were careless and went in another inch during the fight just now, would you have lost your life?" Fengcheng hurried over to Qin Feiyong. While cursing, he gently pulled out the shard. Qin Feiyong said, "If we take it, the evidence will be gone." "You silly boy. Even if there's no evidence, there's still a wound. Besides, we're not fools. Can't we see that? You don't cherish your life at all. You're a bastard among bastards." Fengcheng was so angry that he cursed loudly. If he died, wouldn't a monster in the alchemy world be gone? Qin Feiyong was quite touched. However, if he didn't have full confidence, he wouldn't have left the shard in his chest. After taking out the shard, Fengcheng took out a healing pill from his Qinquan bag and directly stuffed it into Qin Feiyong's mouth without caring about anything else. Then, he took the shard and turned to look at Ling Yan and the other 2. His face was as dark as water. "Do you know what you're doing? I'll tell you clearly. If Jiang Haotian is killed by you today, even if the 3 of you and Cheng Yi are added together, it won't be enough to pay for it." Fengcheng roared, his hair standing on end. From the looks of it, he could kill the 3 of them at any time. Ling Yan and the other 2 trembled violently, and their faces turned pale. Beside him, the fatty's eyes lit up. It seemed that this Jiang Haotian was not just valued in an ordinary way. He was very, very valued. This also meant that their choice was right. If they chose to help Ling Yan and the other 2, they would definitely anger this person. The consequences would be unimaginable. "Hall Master, the 4 of them must be severely punished." Elder Emo suddenly spoke. Ling Yan and the other 2 indeed need to be severely punished. However, Jiang Haotian is the victim, and he almost lost his life. You still want to punish him severely. Old dog Mo, do you still have a conscience? Fengcheng blew his beard and glared, scolding continuously. Elder Mo's face darkened. He took a step forward and shouted into Fengcheng's ears. I'm talking about Cheng Yi, not Jiang Haotian. Can't you tell? Are you a pig? Fengcheng was stunned. Sorry, I misunderstood you. I apologize, immediately after. He rubbed his ears and smiled apologetically to Elder Mo Humph. Elder Mo snorted coldly. Seeing that Luo Xiong was still deep in thought, he said, "How about this? From today onwards, let the four of them go to the pig cage and face the wall for a month. Also, take away their alchemy room." What? Pig cage? Ling Yan and the other two were so frightened that their faces turned pale. Fatso was also dumbfounded. Luo Xiong glanced at Ling Yan and the other two and frowned. "Old Mo, I agree with taking away their alchemy room, but to let them go to the pig cage, isn't it a little too?" Elder Mo said. "It has to be like this. Let them remember." Fengcheng said. "This old man also agrees." Looking at the two of them, Luo Xiong shook his head helplessly and said, "Up to you. Jiang Haotian, you will use alchemy room number 4 from now on." "That. What's your name?" Luo Chong looked at Fatso. Fatso hurriedly said, "Hall Master, disciple is Situ Tianyu." "Situ Tianyu?" Luo Xiong was slightly stunned. The name was quite imposing, but this person, his appearance, was really indescribable. You will use Lu Hong's alchemy room from now on," Luo Xiong said. "Thank you, Hall Master." Fatso was overjoyed and hurriedly thanked him. Luo Xiong nodded, looked at Feng Cheng and Elder Mo, and said, "I'll leave the rest to you. I'll go rest first." With that, he turned and walked into the courtyard. "Hall Master, wait a moment," Qin Feiyang suddenly said. "Is there anything else?" Luo Xiong turned and looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyang asked, "Does the big hunting competition still count?" "Why do you ask?" Luo Xiong didn't understand. Qin Feiyang said, "Because I'll definitely get first place. I'm still waiting to receive the prize." "You're that confident?" Luo Xiong was instantly interested and said, Come. Show me all the beasts you killed in the Black Bear Mountain. If you can surpass the number of beasts you killed last year, I'll personally give you 1,000,000 gold coins." Qin Feiyang was overjoyed and asked, "You'll keep your word?" Luo Xiong said unhappily, "Aren't you talking nonsense? I'm the Pill Hall Master. How can I go back on my word?" Qin Feiyang said, "Then let me ask you clearly. How many beasts did the first place last year kill?" Luo Xiong recalled carefully and said, "I think it was more than 100. They were all martial master level beasts." "So many? But I'm not talking about quantity, only quality." Qin Feiyang smiled confidently. He waved his hand, and the corpses of 5 beasts appeared in front of everyone. Luo Xiong glanced at them, and his pupils instantly contracted. They were actually martial ancestor level beasts. How much ability did this kid have? Was it something that no one knew? Feng Cheng and He Wu were also very surprised. Suddenly, the three of them looked at each other, turned around at the same time, and walked into their own courtyards. "Sai, Hall Master, where's the 1,000,000 gold coins?" Qin Feiyang said hurriedly. "When did I say I'll give you a prize?" The Hall Master said expressionlessly. Then he closed the courtyard's door with a bang. "Shameless?" Qin Feiyang was stunned, and he looked at Feng Cheng and Elder Mo bang bang. The two of them didn't say anything and closed the courtyard's door. "Gu Ba, He Wu, Elder Mo and I are tired. We want to rest early. You guys can handle Cheng Yi and the others." Feng Cheng's voice came from behind the door. "Yes." Gu Ba and He Wu bowed and replied. The veins on Qin Feiyang's forehead jumped violently, and he said angrily, "Not only did you guys go back on your words, but the 3 of you also went back on your words. Can't you act like a senior?" Luo Xiong and the other 2 hid behind the door and didn't say anything, looking embarrassed. This time it was really embarrassing. They really couldn't figure out how this kid hunted those 5 beasts. Gu Ba walked to Qin Feiyang, cupped his hands and said, "I'm really sorry for blaming you just now." "It's okay." Qin Feiyang smiled. Gu Ba said, "Then you have to recuperate well and work hard to refine pills. Don't let down the Hall Master and the 2 elders." "I will." Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. "He Wu, take them. Let's go." Gu Ba carried Ji Jin and turned to leave. He Wu also held Ling Yan and Lu Hong, nodded to Qin Feiyang in a friendly manner, and quickly followed. "They're finally gone." Fatso let out a long sigh. He looked relaxed on the surface, but he was actually very nervous in his heart. "Let's go too," Qin Feiyang said to Fatso. He kept the corpses of the 5 beasts and didn't continue to pester them. After all, the 3 of them had helped him a lot. The fatty hurriedly followed him and chuckled. The dignified Pill Hall's Hall Master actually doesn't keep his word. If this were to spread out, I wonder how many people would laugh their heads off. Qin Feiyang said, I'm warning you, you better not talk nonsense. Don't worry, Fat Lord still knows what to do. Fatso couldn't stop laughing. It was very wretched, and it made people want to slap him. What's a pig cage? Qin Feiyang asked in a low voice. Mentioning this, Fatso laughed until his whole body shook. He said, a pig cage is a place to raise pigs. The Pill Palace raises pigs? Qin Feiyang was astonished. Fatso said, yes, but they're not raised for food. They're used to punish disciples. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh. Cheng Yi and the other three were all proud people. Letting them stay in a pig cage for a whole month was more painful than killing them. Of course, he also felt relieved. Fatso said sneakily, the pig cage is in a corner of the Pillfire Palace. Do you want to go and take a look? Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, not now. I'll go and concoct pills first. What's the rush? It's not too late to concoct pills after taking a look. Let's go. Don't you want to see Cheng Yi's expression when he enters the pig cage? Fatso dragged him and laughed sinisterly. Qin Feiyang struggled and shook his head. I'm really not going. Because they don't deserve me to waste more time on them. If you want to go, you can go by yourself. Just tell me when you come back. Fatso said uninterestedly, you're really a busy person. All right, I'll go by myself. I'll find you in the alchemy room later. Qin Feiyang nodded. Fatso dragged his fat body and quickly disappeared into the night. I hope you can remember this. Otherwise, it won't be so simple next time. Chapter 76. Pillfire Palace. Qin Feiyang walked into alchemy room number 4. Looking around, it was about the same size as the other alchemy rooms. However, the quality of the cauldron was obviously better than the one that exploded. There were many bottles and herbs on the stone table. Naturally, they were left behind by Cheng Yi. Qin Feiyang took off his tattered clothes, wrapped everything up, and threw it outside the door. Then, he closed the stone door of the alchemy room and looked at the potential mark on his chest. If they know that I have broken the martial artist limit, I wonder how they will react. He muttered to himself. He took out a clean linen shirt and put it on. Then, he took out a set of herbs for the healing elixir and began to refine it. The first herb was 30% mature. The second herb was 40% mature. The third herb was still 40% mature. The fourth herb was 50% mature. With his previous experience, he was able to quickly refine the spiritual liquid of the 8 types of medicinal herbs. The entire process was extremely easy. He did not use much mental strength either. It seems that the alchemy fire is the most important thing in refining elixirs. Qin Feiyang mumbled. Although experience was also important, the alchemy fire was the most important factor. A high-quality alchemy fire could not only save mental strength, but also increase the speed of refining elixirs. It's time to fuse again. I must succeed this time. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath. He was fully focused. He controlled the 8 drops of spirit liquids with his mental strength and gradually drew them together. After a while, the 8 drops of spirit liquids finally met. Qin Feiyang's heart was as calm as still water. His movements were gentle, and they slowly fused together. Whoosh! Rays of light shot out from the alchemy furnace and illuminated the entire alchemy room. It was beautiful. Soon, the 8 drops of spirit liquids mixed together and formed a drop of spirit liquid the size of a finger. Oh no! Qin Feiyang forgot one thing. That was to refine the solidifying liquid first. The solidifying liquid could solidify the spirit liquids and turn them from a liquid state to a solid state. It also had the effect of waterproofing, setting fire and preventing the medicinal properties from volatilizing. Of course, if it was soaked in water for a long time or burned for a long time, it would still dissipate and burn. Zhang Haoyan, may I come in? But at this moment, Feng Cheng's voice sounded like a timely rain outside the door. Sure. Qin Feiyang said hurriedly. Feng Cheng pushed open the door and entered. After closing the stone door, he saw Qin Feiyang refining pills. He smiled and asked, how is it? Qin Feiyang said, Elder Feng, give me a drop of solidifying fluid first. What? Feng Cheng was stunned. He walked to the front of the cauldron and his face twitched. He was speechless. You don't have any solidifying liquid, and you're already refining pills. You're really something. As he spoke, he took out a jade bottle. Inside, there was a transparent liquid that took up more than half of the bottle. One could even faintly see a hazy luster. This was the solidifying fluid. Feng Cheng poured out a drop. Qin Feiyang quickly split a wisp of spiritual force, wrapped the drop of solidifying liquid, put it into the pill furnace, and carefully integrated it into the drop of spiritual liquid. Immediately, the drop of spiritual liquid began to solidify. Not long after, the spiritual liquid was completely solidified. The multicolored light converged, revealing a bright medicinal pill. At the same time, a strong medicinal fragrance wafted out. It's a success. This is the first medicinal pill I've refined in my life. Staring at the healing pill floating in the pill furnace, Qin Feiyang was quite excited. After the medicinal pill is formed, it can't continue to be placed in the pill furnace because the temperature inside the pill furnace is very high. Even with the protection of the solidifying fluid, the medicinal properties will gradually evaporate. Feng Cheng reminded. Qin Feiyang quivered. With a thought, his spiritual force wrapped around the healing pill and flew out of the pill furnace like a divine rainbow. He grabbed it. The medicinal pill was a little hot. Opening his palm, the healing pill lay quietly in his palm. It was the size of a pellet. Looking carefully, one couldn't find the slightest flaw. Feng Cheng was surprised. He grabbed the medicinal pill in his hand and looked at it carefully. Level 9 spiritual force is indeed extraordinary. A moment later, he couldn't help but exclaim, "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang didn't understand. Feng Cheng said, "This healing pill, whether in color or quality, can be regarded as the best. It's preliminarily concluded that the medicinal effect is at least 2 or 3 times that of the ordinary healing pill." Qin Feiyang rubbed his head and was a little embarrassed by the praise. "No," Feng Cheng suddenly exclaimed again, which startled Qin Feiyang. "Old man, can you not be so surprised? What's the problem? Can't you just say it?" Qin Feiyang looked at him helplessly. But Feng Cheng turned a deaf ear. His eyes were fixed on a certain part of the healing pill. Feng Cheng suddenly placed the pill in front of Qin Feiyang and said, "Brat, quickly take a look. Is there a pattern here?" Qin Feiyang glanced at it and shook his head. "No." Feng Cheng said, "Look carefully." "Oh." Qin Feiyang responded, looked at Feng Cheng suspiciously, and looked carefully again. Suddenly, his eyes were full of surprise. He really found a circle of pale white lines on the medicinal pill, but it was very blurry and couldn't be found if he didn't look carefully. Elixir pattern. 2 words came to his mind. Although he had never refined medicinal pills before, he had seen many medicinal pills. So the words elixir pattern were not unfamiliar. Elixir pattern actually had no practical effect. It was just a symbol. But this was a kind of affirmation, because only the best medicinal pills in the true sense would produce elixir pattern. In fact, every medicinal ingredient had a lot of impurities. Although these impurities would be volatilized in the process of refining medicinal ingredients, there would still be some impurities mixed into the spirit liquid, which was difficult to completely eliminate. Impurities would affect the quality of the medicinal pill. The less impurities, the higher the quality and the better the medicinal effect. As for this medicinal pill, there were actually a few distracting thoughts because the elixir pattern was not obvious. For a medicinal pill without impurities, the elixir pattern was not only obvious but also glowed, which was very eye-catching. Of course, it belonged to the best medicinal pill, no one could deny it. Qin Feiyang was extremely excited. He didn't expect it. The first time he refined a pill, he produced elixir pattern. It seemed that he was quite talented in the path of alchemy. This old man has been refining pills for decades, and I have never refined a best medicinal pill. Now, I actually let you, this kid, refine it. The younger generation will surpass us in time. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Feng Cheng laughed heartily and patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder, feeling gratified. Qin Feiyang laughed dryly, feeling a little uncomfortable. But you can't be complacent. Being able to refine a best medicinal pill on your first try is not because you are very powerful, but because of your mental strength. If you don't have level 9 mental strength, I'm afraid that the medicinal pill you refined will be worse than ordinary medicinal pills. Of course, your talent in alchemy can't be denied. Feng Cheng laughed. This disciple will continue to work hard. Qin Feiyang said. Feng Cheng nodded and said with a sneaky smile, "This old man will give you this bottle of solidifying liquid, but this old man will take away this medicinal pill. When the hall master and old man Mo see it, they will definitely be shocked." "Thank you, Elder Feng." Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and thanked him. The solidifying liquid required 10 kinds of medicinal herbs, and it was very troublesome to refine. And this bottle of solidifying liquid had at least a few hundred drops, which saved him a lot of time. Qin Feiyang asked, "Right, why are you always looking for me?" Feng Cheng laughed. "It's nothing much. I just came to see how you are refining, and if you need any pointers, but now it seems that you don't need it, so this old man won't disturb you. Good luck." Qin Feiyang nodded. Feng Cheng turned and left. Qin Feiyang took out the bone-continuing pills pill formula, read it carefully, and began to refine the bone-continuing pill. At the same time, Chengyi was sleeping soundly. There was still a smile on his face, as if he was having a good dream. "Zhang Haotian, you dare to go against me, I'll kill you, I'll trample you to death suddenly," he mumbled. He actually dreamed of Qin Feiyang in his dreams. How deep was this hatred? Bam! Suddenly, the door was kicked open, and Gu Ba and he strode in. "Who is it?" Chengyi was also awakened. He suddenly turned over and climbed up, looking at the door warily. Gu Ba blew on the fire and lit the candle. Chengyi was slightly taken aback and asked, "Two elders, why are you here so late at night?" "Follow us," Gu Ba said. "Where to?" Chengyi was puzzled. "Pig cage." Gu Ba said. "What are you going to do in the pig cage?" Chengyi was even more puzzled. "The palace master has ordered you to go to the pig cage and face the wall for a month." Gu Ba said. "Impossible." Chengyi suddenly shouted, hurriedly got out of bed, put on his clothes, and said, "I want to see the palace master. I want to ask clearly, what did I do wrong, to want me to go to the pig cage and face the wall for a whole month? Don't go, because the palace master doesn't want to see you now." After Gu Ba finished speaking, he looked at He Wu. The two stepped forward, ignoring Chengyi's resistance and roar, one on the left and one on the right, forcibly dragged him out of the room, and walked quickly in the direction of the pig cage. "It must be Zhang Haotian, I swear, I'm not done with you." Chengyi's roar resounded in the night, and it did not calm down for a long time. Time flew. The horizon gradually began to turn white. Phew! Qin Feiyang let out a long breath, turned off the alchemy fire, and looked at the 20 elixirs on the stone table. The excitement in his eyes could not be concealed. They were 5 healing elixirs, 5 bone replenishing elixirs, 5 body tempering elixirs, and 5 chi gathering elixirs. This was the result of his night's work. Although the number was small, there was a circle of elixir pattern on each elixir. The only regret was that no matter how he refined, the elixir pattern could not be clearer, more obvious, and still so vague. Qin Feiyang guessed that it should be the problem of the alchemy fire and the alchemy furnace. However, after a night of refining elixirs, his spirit was still very strong, and there was no sign of exhaustion at all. This was another big advantage of a level 9 mental power. "Zhang Lauda, Fat Lord is back, are you in?" At this moment, Fatso's voice came from outside the door. "Boss!" Qin Feiyang was stunned, and shook his head with a smile. "Come in." Fatso pushed open the stone door, and he was hale and hearty, in high spirits, and laughed. "Are you used to the alchemy room number 4? "It's okay." Qin Feiyang smiled and stretched out his hand. "Give me a jade box." Fatso took out a palm-sized jade box and handed it to Qin Feiyang. He grabbed the 5 elixirs and said, "Let Fat Lord take a look at the elixirs you refined." Seeing Fatso seriously scrutinizing the elixirs, to be honest, he was not used to it. Chapter 77. The value of a top-grade pill couldn't be compared to an ordinary pill. If these 20 pills were to be auctioned, they would definitely be sold for a good price. However, Fatso wasn't happy. He said angrily, "For you, I almost offended all the geniuses in the pill palace. You actually used 20 pills to fool me. Do you have a conscience?" Qin Feiyang's face twitched. He said, "Take a look first. When you go out later, close the door." After saying that, he walked out of the alchemy room and went to find Luo Xiong. "No matter how you look at it, it's just an ordinary pill. How can it become a divine pill?" Fatso muttered in disdain. However, after he took a closer look, his eyeballs almost popped out. There were actually pill patterns. He hurriedly checked them one by one. He found that there were pill patterns on every pill. This guy, is he still human? Fatso froze on the spot and muttered to himself. Following that, he shuddered and hurriedly kept the 20 pills. He closed the stone door and chased after Qin Feiyang. After catching up, he licked his face full of admiration and flattery. He said, Zhang Laoda, you're too awesome. You created pill patterns on your first try. I really admire you. Can you accept me as your follower? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He shook his head and laughed. Fatso said anxiously, don't laugh. I'm serious. Qin Feiyang laughed, sure, as long as you don't regret it in the future. I won't regret it. Fatso patted his chest and said confidently. At this moment, most of the disciples had already woken up. They also knew that Cheng Yi and the other three were beaten into the pig cage. This explosive news made the morning of the Pill Palace bustle with excitement. Look, it's Zhang Haotian. I heard that Cheng Yi and the other three were beaten into the pig cage. It's related to him. Let's go and ask. When the disciples saw Qin Feiyang, they rushed forward. Fat Lord, it's up to you now. Qin Feiyang saw that the situation was not good. He said something to Fatso, then used the shifting smoke steps, broke through the layers of encirclement, and quickly disappeared. Everyone stopped chasing. Fat Lord was there last night. As long as you are sincere enough, Fat Lord will tell you everything. Fatso roared with a smirk. Hearing this, the group of disciples immediately surrounded Fatso. At the same time, Luo Xiong, Feng Cheng, and Elder Mo were all in their respective courtyards. They were removing insects and weeding the flower beds while chatting. Why is it so hot so early in the morning? When will it cool down? Luo Xiong complained as he stood up and wiped the sweat off his forehead. Soon. It will be autumn in a month. Feng Cheng smiled. I really hope it will come soon. Luo Xiong shook his head and sighed. Suddenly, he noticed Qin Feiyang rushing over from afar and immediately laughed out loud, saying, Our genius is here. Elder Feng stood up and looked over, his face full of smiles. Even Elder Mo, who was usually reserved, was smiling from ear to ear. Greetings, Hall Master. Greetings, Elder Feng, Elder Mo. Qin Feiyang stopped in front of Luo Xiong's courtyard and cupped his hands. Elder Feng chuckled. Running here so early in the morning. Do you have any good news to tell us? How can there be so many good news? Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and cupped his hands. Hall Master, this disciple is here to look for you. This disciple would like to borrow the number 1 alchemy room. Why? Luo Xiong asked. Qin Feiyang said, I want to try and see if I can go further. The three of them looked at each other. Others would never be able to refine a top-grade pill in their entire lives. But this kid had refined it on his first try, and he was still not satisfied. But this was a good thing. It proved that this kid was ambitious. He deserved praise. He deserved more support. Mind power, talent, alchemy fire, alchemy furnace, these are indeed the necessary conditions to refine a good pill. All right, you can use the number 1 alchemy room. I rarely refine pills anyway. Luo Xiong smiled. Thank you, Hall Master. Hall Master, Elder Feng, Elder Mo, goodbye. Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. He hurriedly said goodbye and ran back to the Pillfire Hall. What an impatient little fellow. Elder Mo shook his head and smiled. He turned to look at Luo Xiong and said, Hall Master, I'm afraid the one and only reserved spot in the Danwang Hall will belong to this kid, right? Haha, do you even need to say that? Before the Hall Master could speak, Feng Cheng laughed first. When Qin Feiyang returned to the Pillfire Hall, he told Guba and Elder Mo about the situation. Hearing about it, both of them were shocked. One must know. The number 1 alchemy room was the Hall Master's personal alchemy room. In the past, the Hall Master would not allow the Pill Hall's disciples to go in and take a look. They did not expect that this kid could use it as he wished. The difference in treatment was like heaven and earth. Since the Hall Master had personally agreed, they naturally did not dare to say anything. Qin Feiyang entered the number 1 alchemy room as he wished. Its size was not much different from the other alchemy rooms. However, that alchemy furnace was the best in the entire Pill Hall. It even glowed with treasure light. Clang! Qin Feiyang stretched out his hand and flicked the alchemy furnace. The sound was as smooth as a pearl, and there was no noise at all. He pressed the button again and opened the black hole. Buzz! Alchemy fire quickly appeared and burned like blood. Phew! Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and began to refine healing pills. At the same time, because of this, there was an uproar outside. Not only did he trick Cheng Yi and the other three into the pig cage, he also obtained the right to use the number 1 alchemy room. What was the background of this Zhang Haotian? Fatso also became the target of everyone's flattery. When Fatso brought the 20 elixirs into the treasure pavilion, there was a huge uproar. The Pill Hall had produced supreme-grade elixirs. This news was like a plague, spreading unstoppably in the Black Bear City. All the family heads, martial arts hall masters, and even the city lord were alarmed and swarmed towards the treasure pavilion. For a moment, Fatso became the most popular person in the city. Everyone was looking for him to find out where the supreme-grade elixirs came from. However, although Fatso liked to act cool and was greedy for small gains, without Qin Feiyang's permission, he did not dare to say it out. In the end, the 20 elixirs were auctioned for a total of 20,000 gold coins. They landed in the hands of the 3 family heads, city lord, and martial arts hall master. They were auctioned for a sky-high price. One must know, the market price of a single qi gathering pill was only 2 gold coins. Not to mention the body-tempering pill, healing pill, and bone-replenishing pill. If it was an ordinary one, 20 of them were not even worth 10 gold coins. Compared to 20,000 gold coins, how much was the difference? Actually, even supreme-grade elixirs were not that valuable. After all, they were only low-grade elixirs. It was because this was the first time a supreme-grade elixir appeared in the Black Bear City. That was why everyone was fighting for it. Another main reason was vanity. Having a few supreme-grade elixirs at home was not only a source of pride, but also a symbol of identity and status. Hee. I didn't expect that Fat Lord would have such a day. Fatso made a huge profit and happily returned to the pill hall. However, even if he did not say anything, it did not mean that this matter was over. Anyone with a little bit of status in the Black Bear City went to the pill hall to visit Luo Xiong. At first, Luo Xiong was still a little confused. However, when he heard the truth from those people, he was instantly furious. This damn Fatso was really asking for a beating. However, he did not tell the truth. He said that he only knew about it now. He would tell everyone after he found out the truth. It took him a lot of effort to get rid of those people. However, the city lord, martial arts hall master, precious treasure pavilion master, Battle King Lin Liang of the Yen City's Lin family also came personally. Not only Luo Xiong, even Feng Cheng and Elder Mo were annoyed and avoided them. The city lord and the others waited for a while before tactfully leaving. However, they did not give up and tried their best to find out more. At the same time, the disciples of the pill hall were also discussing and guessing. They thought of Qin Feiyang, but immediately rejected it. Actually, they could not be blamed. After all, Qin Feiyang had just started refining elixirs. How could he make supreme-grade elixirs? The one who started the trouble should end it. They also targeted Fatso. However, ever since Fatso returned to the pill hall, it was as if he had disappeared from the world. They searched every corner of the pill hall, but could not find him. Under Luo Xiong's courtyard, there was an airtight cellar. At the left corner of the cellar, there was a chair. The fat man was tied to a chair with his hands tied behind his back. Moreover, his whole body was covered with blood. His face was purple and red, and his eyes were swollen. Right now, he was no different from a pig head. Luo Xiong, Feng Cheng, and Elder Mo stood side by side in front of him. Their faces were filled with anger. That's right. Fatso was kidnapped by the 3 of them. Moreover, Elder Mo did it personally. They also saw the result. He was beaten black and blue by Feng Cheng. However, Fatso was very sullen. Zhang Haoyan gave the elixirs to him. It was his private property. He had the right to control it. Why did he have to be beaten? Wasn't this too much? What was worse was that not only was he beaten up, the 20,000 gold coins he got from the auction was also robbed by the 3 leaders. You are the leaders of the pill hall, not bandits. How could you do such a thing? How unseemly was that? Fatso felt that he was even more wrong than Doi. Luo Xiong asked, Fatso, do you know your mistake? What did I do wrong? Fatso asked back. This is too much. Even if you are the leaders, Fat Lord will not compromise today. Luo Xiong said, stubborn. Old Mo, send him to the pig cage immediately. Lock him up for a year and a half. Pig cage. A year and a half. Fatso's expression changed greatly. He hurriedly shouted, Hallmaster, I know my mistake. I will definitely change. I am sincerely regretful. I am willing to accept any punishment, except for the pig cage. The 3 leaders looked at each other. A smile appeared in their eyes. The Hallmaster's face darkened. He said, when you go out later, if someone asks you, just say that you picked up the elixirs. Do you understand? I understand. Fatso nodded. Feng Cheng said, then if someone asks about your injuries, do you know what to say? Fatso nodded, I know. I will say that I accidentally fell and bumped into something. Yes. Fengcheng nodded and said, at least you know your place. This will be a lesson for you. I hope you can remember and keep a low profile in the future. The pig cage will be prepared for you at any time. Chapter 78. Fatso had completely lost his temper under the threat of the three giants. Once he was untied, he ran out of the cellar as if he was running for his life. On the way to the Pillfire Hall, the disciples of the Pillfire Hall kept coming and surrounded him. If you want to know the truth, don't block my way. Follow Fat Lord to the Pillfire Hall. Fatso said. When they arrived at the Pillfire Hall, everyone couldn't wait to urge Fatso to speak quickly. The elixir was picked up and the injury was caused by a collision. This is the truth. If you know, then go back to your own homes and find your own mothers. Don't bother me anymore. Fatty first pushed open the door and ran in. Then, without even turning his head, he quickly slipped into the alchemy room and closed the stone door tightly. Picked up? Who would believe that? Fatso, open the door. If you don't open it, we'll break the door. A group of disciples also ran into the Pillfire Hall and blocked the door of Fatso's alchemy room and shouted, Fat Lord isn't your father. Why are you pestering him? Get lost. Fatso scolded angrily. Were they all blind? Couldn't they see that he had his difficulties? However, Fatso's words made the disciples even angrier. What are you all doing? Don't you all have anything to do? Get lost right now, or you'll all be locked in the pig cage. In the end, it was Gu Ba and He Wu who ran in and shouted with a sullen face that ended the disturbance. In fact, they were also puzzled. But as deacon elders, they saw and thought of more things than the disciples. So they chose to remain silent and pretend that nothing had happened. 2 days later, before the Supreme Great Elixir incident was over, another incident was spreading like wildfire. Because today was the day of the battle between Ling Yunfei and Ling Sheng. Early in the morning, everyone rushed out of the city, hoping to get a good spot. The East City Gate was already bustling with noise and excitement. By the time the sun rose, the place was already packed with people. In a certain dense forest deep within the Black Bear Mountain, there was a huge ferocious beast. Its entire body was pitch black, and its hair was as hard as steel needles. Its millstone-sized eyes were emitting a frightening and ominous light. It was the Black Bear King. Beside him stood a demonic young man whose body was riddled with scars. Some of the blood had already coagulated. Some of the blood had just flowed out. He was Ling Yunfei, but at this moment he was covered in blood, and his entire body was filled with the pungent smell of blood. There was another person lying in front of the man and the beast. It was Butler Ling. But now he had become a corpse. He was killed by the Black Bear King. Ling Yunfei lowered his head and stared at Steward Ling. His eyebrows were full of surprise. A moment later, he raised his head and looked into the Black Bear King's eyes. He asked in confusion, Senior Bear King, I have no relation to you. Why are you helping me? The Black Bear King said indifferently, I'm only helping you because of them. Them. Ling Yunfei was stunned and asked, Who are they? The Black Bear King said, Don't worry about that and don't ask too much. Hurry back or you'll be late. Shit. Ling Yunfei slapped his head and said hurriedly, Senior Bear King, can you help me again? This place is dozens of kilometers away from Black Bear City. Even if I don't eat or drink, it'll take me half a day to get there. I won't make it in time. The Black Bear King was silent for a moment before nodding. All right, I'll help you one more time. Come onto my shoulder. Ling Yunfei bent down and hugged Steward Ling's corpse. With a powerful leap, he landed on the Black Bear King's shoulder. Bang! 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 The Black Bear King strode forward and disappeared into the vast mountains with a series of loud sounds. Roar! Roar! At the same time, there was a canyon not far away. In the depths of the canyon, the Wolf King and the Black Bear Cub were playing happily. Pillfire Hall. Qin Feiyang also opened the stone door of Alchemy Room 1 and strode out. Jiang Laoda, you're finally willing to come out. Do you know how Fat Lord endured the past few days? Even saying that he was better off dead is not enough to describe it. As soon as he appeared, Fatso's cries reached his ears. Is it that bad? Qin Feiyang was stunned. After closing the stone door, he looked at Fatso. He saw Fatso standing at the door of Alchemy Room 5 and looking at him pitifully. He looked very haggard. His spirit was also very weak. but there was a trace of vigilance in his eyes as he looked behind him. Qin Feiyong turned his head and looked behind him. There was no one. Puzzled, he asked, "How did you become like this? Isn't it all your fault?" Fatso felt so wrong that tears were about to fall out. "Me?" Qin Feiyong was stunned and said with a faint smile, "What's the matter? Wait for me to come back." With that, he turned and walked towards the door. "Don't, Fat Lord will go with you." Fatso hurriedly closed the stone door and chased after Qin Feiyong. "You're out. How's the results?" After the door opened, Gu Ba and He Wu saw Qin Feiyong and asked with a smile. "Not bad." Qin Feiyong nodded. Hearing this ambiguous answer, Gu Ba and He Wu didn't probe further. He Wu said with a smile, "The temple master asked us to tell you to go find him first, and then go out of the city together." "Thank you." Qin Feiyong cupped his hands in thanks and strode away. Find the temple master? Should Fat Lord go? Or not? Fatso hesitated for a while, but finally gritted his teeth and followed. "Jiang Laoda, you don't know how unlucky Fat Lord is. Not only did I not get any gold coins, I was also beaten up. Even these 2 days, I hid in the alchemy room and didn't dare to come out." He complained to Qin Feiyong with snot and tears. Heard. Qin Feiyong couldn't help but be absent-minded. He didn't expect that the 20 elixirs could be auctioned at the sky-high price of 20,000 gold coins. "Jiang Laoda, Fat Lord has done so much for you. Shouldn't you also make up for Fat Lord's broken heart?" Fatso lowered his head and muttered. This was the real purpose of him coming. Qin Feiyong glanced at him and couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. He took out 20 elixirs and said, "Take them, you have to be smarter this time." "Thank you very much, Jiang Laoda." Fatso's face immediately glowed. He happily received the 10 elixirs and even looked to see if there were any markings on them. The disciples of the Pill Hall also ran to the East City Gate to join in the fun. So on the way, it was considered smooth and unobstructed. In the courtyard, Qin Feiyong stood in front of the gate and cupped his hands. "Temple Master, this disciple is here to report." Before he finished his words, Luo Xiong, Feng Cheng, and Elder Mo opened the door one after another and walked out. But seeing that Fatso was also there, the 3 of them frowned without leaving a trace. Feng Cheng said, "Let me see the elixirs refined in these 2 days." Qin Feiyong took out a Qinquan bag from his chest, took out an elixir, and handed it to Feng Cheng. Feng Cheng held it in his hand and checked the markings. Although the markings on the elixir were still a little blurry, it was much clearer than the first elixir refined. He could notice it with just a glance. Luo Xiong patted Qin Feiyong's shoulder and said with a smile, "You've improved a lot. How many elixirs have you refined?" Healing elixir, bone replenishing elixir, body tempering elixir, and qi gathering elixir, 50 each. They're all here. Qin Feiyong shook the Qinquan bag. Actually, there were 220 elixirs. But he couldn't say the 20 that he gave to Fatso, because the 3 of them would confiscate them. "Amazing. I've been in the Pill Hall for a few months. Now, I can only refine 50 elixirs a day at most. But you've only been here for a few days, and you're already so familiar with it. You're really awesome." Fatso gave him a thumbs up and admired him from the bottom of his heart. Feng Cheng frowned and said, "Who allowed you to speak? Wasn't the lesson 2 days ago enough?" Fatso's face turned pale. He immediately shut his mouth and kept quiet out of fear. "Humph." Feng Cheng snorted and turned to look at Qin Feiyong. His face was full of smiles as he asked, "Can you give these elixirs to us? Although we can't give you as high a price as the Zhenbao Pavilion, we won't treat you unfairly." This attitude made Fatso feel that it was unfair. Qin Feiyong looked at the 3 of them. His eyes flickered. In the end, he smiled faintly and handed the Qinquan bag to Feng Cheng. He also stated that he didn't expect anything in return. He just treated it as a small contribution to the Pill Hall. Seeing that Qin Feiyong was so sensible, the 3 leaders were overjoyed and couldn't stop praising him. "Let's go to the East City Gate. I want to see what kind of trouble the Ling family can cause." Luo Xiong waved his hand and strode forward, walking at the front. Feng Cheng and Elder Mo followed behind him. "Jiang Laoda, are you stupid? Why did you give the elixirs to them for free?" Fatso asked in a low voice. His face was full of pity. 200 elixirs were all supreme-grade elixirs. They could be sold for at least a few 100,000 gold coins. How stupid was he to give them away for free? Qin Feiyong smiled but didn't say anything. He had to have a long-term view. Although it seemed like he was giving them away for free, it would actually be a great help to him in the future. Because as long as he could gain the favor of the three of them, they would help him even more in the future. Elder Feng suddenly stopped and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. He frowned and said, "That Ling Yunfei, why haven't I seen him these few days? Didn't he come to the pill hall?" "No." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled, "but I believe that he will definitely appear." Feng Cheng snorted, "You took such a big risk for him. If he loses today, even if the Ling family doesn't kill him, I will." Immediately after, Luo Xiong said without turning his head, "Don't worry. Even if Ling Yunfei loses, the Ling family won't dare to do anything to you." "Thank you, Palace Master." Qin Feiyang thanked him. If Ling Yunfei really loses, then he would lose the value of nurturing him. East City Gate. At this moment, all the leaders of the Black Bear City, including the Ling family, had arrived. Only the people from the pill hall were left. Why aren't they here yet? Are they afraid? They have already signed the life and death agreement. I'm afraid that they will come. Actually, this Zhang Haotian is also a talent. But unfortunately, he is short-sighted. He bet his life on that trash Ling Yunfei. This time, he is definitely going to die. The group of young disciples from the Ling family were the fiercest. They were full of confidence and looked down on everything in the world. We still don't know who will win. Don't come to a conclusion so early. If we come to a conclusion now and lose, it will be even worse. At this moment, Qin Feiyang and his group arrived. The one who spoke was Qin Feiyang. The crowd automatically parted. Qin Feiyang followed behind the three leaders. His expression was indifferent and his eyes were calm. "Seems like you are very confident." Ling Sheng walked out from the crowd and looked at Qin Feiyang mockingly. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, "If I wasn't confident, I wouldn't have dared to challenge you 3 days ago. I guarantee that you will regret it." Ling Sheng raised the corner of his mouth and pursed his lips into a cold smile. "Then let's wait and see," Qin Feiyang said. His tone was still very calm, without the slightest ripple. Such an attitude made Ling Sheng very unhappy. "Let's see how long you can pretend to be calm." Chapter 79. Qin Feiyang followed Luo Xiong and the other two up to the stage. He turned around and looked at Ling Sheng. He really couldn't understand why this person was so arrogant. Fatso didn't go up. He knew that with his identity and status, he wasn't qualified to stand on the stage. However, in the eyes of some people, Qin Feiyang wasn't qualified either. "Zhang Haotian, get down!" The Ling family head shouted. His son hadn't stopped yet, and his father had come to interfere. It seemed like the father and son wouldn't let this go. Qin Feiyang asked, "Why should I go down?" "Take a look yourself. Who here isn't someone with status and status? You're just a little martial master. What qualifications do you have to be on equal footing with everyone?" The Ling family head said with disdain. "That's reasonable." The martial arts hall master nodded and said indifferently, "Zhang Haotian, you should know your limits. Get down." The city lord said angrily, "You have no manners at all. Luo Xiong, how did you educate your disciple?" Luo Xiong laughed and said, "How I educate my disciple is my pill hall's business. You don't have to worry about it. However, old Feng, old Mo, and I are very satisfied with this disciple." Feng Cheng and old Mo looked at each other and smiled. "Zhang Haotian, ignore them. Come and stand behind me." Elder Mo waved at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, Elder. However, I'm afraid I'll need a chair today." "How dare you? A mere disciple actually wants a chair. What wishful thinking. It seems like you're not only unruly, you're also uneducated." All the family heads shouted angrily. "Educated." Hearing these 2 words, Qin Feiyang's body trembled. His entire temperament changed instantly. He was like an enraged lion, his hair fluttering in the wind as he looked around and sneered. "I think you guys are the ones with no manners and manners. What did you say? I dare you to say it again." Those patriarchs glared angrily. If it weren't for the presence of Luo Xiong and the other 2, they would have already attacked Qin Feiyang. "I said, you guys are the ones who have no manners." Qin Feiyang said word by word. "How preposterous. City Lord, this brat has no respect for his elders. I suggest that we expel him immediately." All the family heads turned to look at the city lord. The city lord's gaze turned cold, and he said in a solemn voice, "Zhang Haotian, if you don't give this city lord a satisfactory explanation today, don't think about leaving here." Qin Feiyang said, It just so happens that I also need an explanation. May I ask why everyone is gathered here today? The city lord said, Nonsense. Of course I'm here to watch the battle between Ling Sheng and Ling Yunfei. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded and said, If I may be so bold as to ask again, who issued the letter of challenge, and who signed the life and death agreement? The city lord frowned, not understanding why Qin Feiyong asked such a question, and said, It's you? Yes, I issued the letter of challenge, and I signed the life and death agreement. I'm equivalent to Ling Yunfei's guarantor. Why can't you prepare a chair for me? And why can't you let me come up? If even I, the guarantor, am not qualified to come up, then what qualifications do you unrelated people have? I want to ask, what does it have to do with you? Are you all too free? If you want to watch the show, get down and watch, okay? Qin Feiyong scolded him on the spot. So what if he was the city lord? So what if he was the patriarch? Did he think that he was easy to bully because he was weak? Causing trouble for him everywhere? Embarrassing him? Let me tell you, no way. Although he was in dire straits now, he had not fallen to the point where he could be bullied by anyone. Qin Feiyong took a deep breath and regained his calm. He turned to look at the Ling family head and said indifferently, You are also Ling Sheng's guarantor. If I don't have the qualifications to sit here, then shouldn't you also get lost? The Ling family head clenched his fists, and his eyes were extremely gloomy. The city lord, the martial arts hall master, and the other family heads were even more furious. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, they were actually scolded by a junior. What a joke! Although the people below the stage felt that Qin Feiyong was a little arrogant, what he said was very reasonable. This was a personal grudge between Jiang Haotian and the Ling family. The unrelated people should retreat to the side and watch silently. But now, they were all speaking with conviction and putting on an attitude as if they were the most important person in the world. They really had nothing better to do, asking for a scolding. Qin Feiyong looked at Luo Xiong and the precious treasure pavilion master, cupped his hands and said, You two are the most impartial people in Black Bear City. Tell me, who is the one here who has no rules? Bastard with an impure heart. The two cursed in their hearts. This little bastard was simply a human. After thinking for a while, the pavilion master smiled and said, If it was in a normal situation, Jiang Haotian would not be qualified to be on equal footing with us in public. But now he is the party involved. Let's put it this way, he is now the host, and we are the people he invited to watch the show. We are indeed not qualified to say anything. He should have a seat. Luo Xiong only said this one sentence, but it was enough to express his position. Qin Feiyong looked at the city lord again and said with a smile, City lord, what do you think? I know that you can't wait to strangle me to death, but justice is in people's hearts. If you are not afraid of others gossiping behind your back, then go ahead and do it. Great. Boss is indeed the boss. Boss, keep it up. Ga. In the silent crowd, a loud roar suddenly sounded. Fatso was standing in the front row, jumping up and down as if he was injected with chicken blood, laughing weirdly. Is this damn Fatso looking for death? Everyone looked over, and their faces became extremely strange. Cough, cough. Qin Feiyong coughed dryly. Fatso quivered. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, he suddenly broke out in cold sweat. His face turned pale, and he hurriedly lowered his head, not daring to breathe loudly. After talking for so long, is anyone going to bring me a chair? Qin Feiyong roared. He once again became the focus of the crowd. The city lord's face was gloomy, and he shouted, Bring him a chair. A guard hurriedly took out a chair from his chinquin bag and asked, Where is it? Qin Feiyong sighed and said, Originally, I was the party involved and should sit in the middle, but everyone here is a senior, so I can only suffer and sit to the side. Suffer? Senior? Hearing this, everyone was speechless. When you pointed at their noses and scolded them just now, why didn't you treat them as seniors? For a chair, you caused such a commotion here, and you call it suffering? You have said good things, and you have also said bad things. What else can you do? You can't be so shameless. That guard was also speechless to the extreme. He had seen people who were not afraid of death, but it was the first time he met someone who was seeking death. After this matter, there was no possibility of turning back the key between this person and the city lord. After placing the chair, that guard retreated to the side. Qin Feiyong grinned, walked over boldly, and sat on the chair. He said with satisfaction, Great, this is the treatment that should be given. City lord, thank you. The city lord immediately turned his head and privately chatted with the martial arts hall master. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly and looked at Fatso. Fatso immediately gave him a thumbs up. Zhang Haotian, where is Ling Yunfei? He hasn't appeared yet. Could it be that he is scared silly by me and doesn't dare to come? At this moment, Ling Sheng sneered. What's the hurry? Before he comes, calm down. With your current state, I can kill you in one move. Qin Feiyong said faintly. This person was too conceited, too arrogant, and a standard playboy. If it wasn't because he wanted to save Ling Yunfei's mother, he would feel that it was a waste of time to even look at him. That's right. Ling Yunfei's mother? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows and looked at the Ling family head. He found that the Ling family head was looking at the Black Bear Mountain, frowning slightly and looking a little irritated. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed and asked, Ling family head, are you wondering why housekeeper Ling hasn't come back yet? How did he know? The Ling family head was shocked. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, on the night of the letter of challenge, I accidentally saw housekeeper Ling sneaking out of the city and entering the Black Bear Mountain. I was curious, why did he go to the Black Bear Mountain? Ling family head, do you know? The Ling family head said in a deep voice, I don't know. Qin Feiyong said playfully, who in the Black Bear City doesn't know that housekeeper Ling is your confidant? How could you not know? If I say I don't know, then I don't know. Why are you talking so much nonsense? The Ling family head shouted angrily, but an uneasy premonition arose in his heart. The city lord and the others also stopped their discussion and looked at the two of them thoughtfully. It seemed that there were still many things that no one knew about. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and said, Okay, I won't talk nonsense, but I want to ask, where is Ling Yunfei's mother? Why isn't she present? The Ling family head said disdainfully, haste makes waste, let's wait for Ling Yunfei to win first. I'm afraid that when the time comes, you'll go back on your word. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. The world seemed to have entered a cold winter, and everyone felt an inexplicable chill. Qin Feiyong raised his head and looked. He saw a blood-colored figure behind the crowd. Who else could it be but Ling Yunfei? He was like an Azura returning. His body was filled with a monstrous killing intent and hostility. However, the Ling family head and a group of Ling family elders all stood up suddenly. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Because on Ling Yunfei's shoulder, there was a person. It was the person they were worried about, Steward Ling. The crowd hurriedly separated. Ling Yunfei walked towards the high platform step by step, his body emitting a pungent smell of blood, causing the surrounding crowd to panic. Swoosh! He jumped and landed on the high platform. First, he placed Steward Ling in front of the Ling family, then stood beside Qin Feiyong, his eyes staring at Steward Ling, like an awakening beast. It was quite terrifying. The Ling family had squatted on the ground, stretched out his finger, and placed it in front of Steward Ling's nose. Immediately, his arm trembled, and he looked up at Ling Yunfei angrily and shouted, Did you kill him? Ling Yunfei said, Before you speak, think first. I'm a martial master. How can I kill a martial great master? It was just a coincidence. I couldn't bear to see his corpse in the wilderness, so I brought him back. You should thank me. He no longer had any feelings for the Ling family, only hatred. Because if it wasn't for the Black Bear King's help, he would have died in Steward Ling's hands. Actually, he didn't know that the one who had been helping him was Wolf King. Luo Xiong looked at Steward Ling's injuries and said, He did die in the hands of a beast, and it was the Black Bear King who killed him. Because there are wounds on his body caused by the Black Bear King's claws. Ling family head, your guts are really big, you actually dared to provoke it. The latter half of the sentence was filled with sarcasm. The Ling family head clenched his fists, making a cracking sound. Not only did Ling Yunfei not kill him, but he also lost a martial great master. How could he not be angry? He also knew that things were not so simple. But he had to endure it. Because once everyone knew about his despicable deeds, not only him, but the Ling family would become the target of public criticism. At that time, even the city lord might not protect him. But he couldn't let this matter rest. He raised his head and looked at Ling Sheng, his eyes filled with murderous intent. Sheng, let's begin. Ling Sheng nodded and turned to Ling Yunfei, shouting, Get over here and accept your death. Qin Feiyong asked, Are you confident? Just watch. Ling Yunfei smiled coldly and walked to the center of the stage, standing opposite Ling Sheng. There was only a distance of 5 meters between the two. Ling Yunfei said, Can I kill people? Ling Sheng said, After signing the life and death agreement, of course you can kill people. I don't want you to leave this stage alive. Chapter 80. Ling Yunfei clenched his fists. The resentment in his heart that had been suppressed for more than 10 years turned into a monstrous rage that spread rapidly. Bang! The two of them stomped on the ground and charged at each other like two wild bulls. He clenched his fists. He threw a punch at his opponent. Boom! The two fists collided violently. A shocking wave of air emerged, with the two of them as the center, rolling in all directions. At the same time, there was a muffled groan. Ling Sheng staggered and retreated continuously. His face instantly turned pale. What? Seeing this scene, everyone present was dumbfounded and filled with disbelief. Especially the people of the Ling family. Their mouths were open so wide that an egg could be stuffed in. How could this be? After Ling Sheng stabilized his body, he looked at Ling Yunfei in disbelief. They were in the same family and had been together for more than 10 years. He was confident that no one knew this person better than him. Not only was he a good-for-nothing, but he was also timid and incompetent. But at this moment, not only did he dare to fight with him, he even forced him to retreat with one move. This completely overturned his understanding of the world. Although this was only the first meeting, everyone's hearts were in turmoil at this moment. They were unable to calm down. Only Qin Feiyong was watching quietly. He was not surprised at all. Everything was within his expectations. Ling Yunfei flicked his sleeves and stood straight like a javelin. He looked at Ling Sheng for a moment and said, "If I'm not wrong, you didn't use your full strength just now because you wanted to torture me and make me wish I was dead." At this moment, everyone could clearly feel that this person had completely changed. He was no longer the little sheep in the past. He was now an awakened lion that bared his fangs. "So you've been hiding your strength." Ling Sheng's face was gloomy. That's right. Previously, he did not use his full strength because he was afraid that he would kill Ling Yunfei with one punch. That would be too easy for him. But he did not expect that the other party had hidden his strength. This made him suffer a great loss. In fact, it did not matter if he suffered a loss. The most important thing was that he lost face. The corners of Ling Yunfei's lips curled up into an evil smile. He said with disdain, "The Ling clan, including you, have always thought that you know me very well. But do you really know me? Don't think that you can boast shamelessly just because you're a 4-star martial master. Let me tell you, you're not qualified." Ling Sheng was infuriated as he charged forward. True Qi surged from his palm as he sent a palm strike at Ling Yunfei. This time, he didn't hold back. He no longer dared to hold back. "Whether or not I'm qualified, we'll see." Ling Yunfei didn't dodge at all. Instead, he raised his arm and struck out with his palm. Bang! True Qi like dragons collided with each other with a loud bang. The two of them retreated at the same time, blood flowing out from the corners of their mouths. Neck and neck. Ling family head's heart skipped a beat as he shouted, "Ling Sheng, what are you doing? Stop hiding your strength and kill him." Hiding his strength? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. "Ling Yunfei, I wanted to torture you, but I have no choice. I can't disobey my father's orders." As soon as he finished speaking, Ling Sheng's body trembled as a terrifying aura emanated from his body. His robes and long hair fluttered in the wind, making him look rather imposing. He's a 5-star martial master. I didn't expect him to hide his strength as well. He's only 18, right? In a small city like Black Bear City, there are only a handful of 18-year-old 5-star martial masters. With Ling Sheng's current strength, he's already strong enough to dominate the younger generation. His future is limitless. Everyone was shocked as they discussed. The martial arts hall master's eyes flashed as he turned to look at Ling family head and said, "I agree to your request to remove Ling Yunfei's qualification and let Ling Sheng enter the martial arts hall." "Thank you, hall master." Ling family head hurriedly stood up and thanked him. Frog in the well. Qin Feiyong didn't hide his sarcasm. The martial arts hall master frowned as he turned to look at Qin Feiyong with hostility. "Jiang Haotian, don't say that the grapes are sour because you can't eat them. There are some things that you can't be jealous of." Ling family head said indifferently as he returned to his seat, his eyes full of contempt. An 18-year-old 5-star martial master, or a 16-year-old 4-star martial master. Which one is more promising and more valuable? I believe that anyone with a clear head would be able to figure this out. Qin Feiyong laughed. The martial arts hall master clenched his fists as his face was filled with anger. These words were basically hinting that he had no foresight and was already muddle-headed. "I'll deal with you later." Ling Sheng glanced at Qin Feiyong as his eyes flashed coldly. He then looked at Ling Yunfei and said disdainfully, "Did you see that? This is the difference between you and me." Ling Yunfei nodded and said seriously, "The difference is indeed huge. Since you know that, then you should obediently submit yourself to capture." Ling Sheng walked towards Ling Yunfei in an imposing manner. The disdain on his face was even thicker. He thought that after seeing his true cultivation, Ling Feiyong would give up resisting. Therefore, he acted very arrogant and cocky, his nostrils almost reaching the sky. Qin Feiyong laughed. Ling Yunfei laughed as well. This person was not just arrogant in the ordinary sense. However, there was a price to pay for being arrogant. Ling Yunfei took a step forward. His speed was actually several times faster than before. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Ling Sheng. His big hand reached out without hesitation and slapped towards Ling Sheng's chest. Puff! Ah! Bang! On the spot. Ling Sheng was sent flying by the slap. He spat out blood and screamed as he landed heavily on the ground more than 10 meters away. Crack! The place immediately shattered like a spider web. Sheng-er! Ling family head stood up and looked at Ling Sheng worriedly. At the same time, he was extremely surprised. How could Ling Yunfei's speed be so fast? Many people could not figure it out. It's an auxiliary martial technique. However, suddenly, the martial arts hall master exclaimed and stood up abruptly. He looked at Ling Yunfei in disbelief. What? Auxiliary martial technique? What kind of joke is this? The auxiliary martial technique is extremely rare. The entire Black Bear City does not have it. How could Ling Yunfei have it? I don't believe it. I don't believe it either. The place was instantly in an uproar. The crowd's clamor resounded throughout the place. Although it's hard to believe, the footwork he used just now is indeed an auxiliary martial technique. Looking at his speed, its grade is not low. The pavilion master said thoughtfully. Suddenly, he turned to look at Qin Feiyong. Seeing Qin Feiyong's calm expression, he was not surprised at all. He could not help but be stunned. Then, as if he had figured something out, he shook his head and smiled bitterly. Kid, I still underestimated you. Everyone looked at Qin Feiyong. Could it be that this matter had something to do with him? You're actually a 5-star martial master too. At this moment, a voice filled with shock exploded like a clap of thunder. Who's a 5-star martial master? Everyone was stunned and looked at Ling Yunfei and Ling Sheng. They saw Ling Sheng climb up from the ground and stare at Ling Yunfei opposite him. His pale face was full of disbelief. Could it be that he's talking about Ling Yunfei? Everyone was surprised. Ling Sheng's face gradually became incomparably ferocious. He gritted his teeth and said, I really didn't expect you to hide so deeply. Mother told me that if I want to survive in the Ling family, I have to endure. So, since I was sensible, I've been enduring. You insulted me, I endured. You took away my things, I endured. You didn't give me martial techniques, didn't give me resources, and didn't even give me food. I still endured. I thought that my tolerance would make you restrain yourself and treat me better. But I was wrong. Not only did my tolerance not have any effect, but it also increased your arrogance. I have to say that human nature is to bully the weak and fear the strong. Ling Yunfei said. Whether it was his tone or his eyes, they were filled with endless heartache and pain, with a trace of self-mockery. Bullying the weak and fearing the strong. What a joke. Do you think you're really strong? Don't be so self-righteous. In my eyes, you're not even comparable to an ant. Go to hell. Ling Sheng roared and rushed towards Ling Yunfei, full of murderous intent. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed coldly. He looked at Ling Yunfei and shouted, Show your full combat strength, and let those who look down on you regret it. They will definitely regret it. Ling Yunfei smiled coldly. Carrying a terrifying murderous intent, he rushed towards Ling Sheng. Both of them were furious and full of murderous intent. Boom. In an instant, they met. Moo. Ling Sheng punched out. The fist wind was like the roar of a bull, extremely fierce. It was the bull fist. Ling Yunfei used the essence convergence steps and dodged it easily. Heartlock killing fist. Then, with a roar, he punched Ling Sheng's chest. This punch, it seemed to have no strength at all. Not only was Ling Sheng not pushed back, he was not injured at all. What bullshit killing fist, it's worse than trash. Ling Sheng sneered, his eyes full of disdain. Wah! But the next moment, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, his pupils rapidly dilated, and with a bang, he fell to the ground. At that moment, he died. What? Dead? Everyone was dumbfounded. Ling Yunfei lowered his arm, looked down at Ling Sheng, who had died with his eyes wide open, and mocked. You didn't understand what I meant just now. I was saying that the gap between you and me is indeed quite big. After he finished speaking, he turned around and walked to Qin Feiyang's side. He raised his head and looked at the people of the Ling family with a bone-chilling gaze. The scene was dead silent. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and take a look. The Ling family head suddenly shouted. Several clan elders immediately ran to the center of the high platform. When they looked down, their faces turned pale. Patriarch Sheng was really killed by him. An elder turned his head with difficulty and said to the Ling family head. As soon as these words came out, the audience was in an uproar. The Ling family head was like a bolt from the blue, and he was stunned on the spot. Gradually, his body trembled violently. Suddenly, he raised his head and looked at Ling Yunfei and Qin Feiyang, his eyes bursting with bone-chilling killing intent. Little beast, I'm going to kill you and bury you with Sheng. With a sorrowful roar, he rushed towards the two of them like a madman. His face was distorted and looked extremely ferocious. At the same time, the other elders also pounced towards the two of them. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and shouted, What? Are you not following the rules? He suddenly stood up and stood in front of Ling Yunfei. This move tugged at everyone's heartstrings. Chapter 81. However, that was not the case. Qin Feiyang knew his limits. The Ling family head and a few of the clan elders were all martial arts grandmasters. With his current strength, it was not enough to fill the gaps between their teeth. He did this to let Luo Xiong and the other two take action. As expected, seeing him standing in front of Ling Yunfei, Luo Xiong and the other two's faces changed. Crash! Streaks of dazzling battle chi surged out from their bodies like a torrent. They covered the sky above the stage and emitted a destructive aura. Whoever dares to move will be killed without mercy, Luo Xiong roared. The Ling family head and the other elders trembled and stopped in their tracks. They looked at the battle chi above their heads in fear. Their bodies were drenched in cold sweat. Qin Feiyang secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He turned around and looked at the city lord. Seeing that the city lord was indifferent, he frowned and said, City lord, you wrote the life and death agreement yourself. Are you not going to say anything? Are you going to side with the Ling family? I want to check it out personally. The city lord stood up and walked towards Ling Sheng. His face was ugly. This was not the result he wanted. In these 3 days, he had never worried, nor had he ever thought that Ling Sheng would be defeated. He had even planned how to teach Qin Feiyang a lesson after Ling Sheng won. However, everything was a mess now. He did not know what to do. He came in front of Ling Sheng and looked carefully. Suddenly, a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. However, gradually, the doubt disappeared and was replaced by horror. How is this possible? The heart is actually broken. Finally, he could not help but exclaim. What? All the leaders and family heads were shocked. They went forward to check. It is really broken. Everyone was dumbfounded. There weren't any external wounds on his chest, but his heart was already torn apart. Wasn't this too strange? Was this the legendary hitting a bull through a mountain? The martial arts hall master turned to look at Ling Yunfei. His eyes were shining as he asked, When did you master this martial skill? I don't know, Ling Yunfei said expressionlessly. The martial arts hall master was too hypocritical. Be it Qin Feiyang or Ling Yunfei, Jiang Yi didn't have a good impression of him and even felt disgusted. However, the martial arts hall master turned a blind eye to such an attitude, and a smile crept onto his face. Seeing this, the Ling family head felt that something was wrong. He hurriedly bowed and begged, Hall master, I beg you, please help Sheng. The martial arts hall master frowned and said unhappily, Why should this hall master stand up for him? The Ling clan head was anxious and said, Hall master, he is now a disciple of the martial arts hall. You promised him yourself. I did agree to it, but he hasn't officially entered the martial arts hall. He can't be considered a disciple of the martial arts hall. Besides, you've already signed the life and death agreement. You should accept your loss. Stop looking for trouble with Ling Yunfei. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. The martial arts hall master said coldly. The Ling family head's face turned ashen on the spot. If he didn't care, then so be it. He didn't expect that he would be threatened. What was this? Just ask. Was such a person worthy of being the martial arts hall master? However, no matter how much resentment he had in his stomach, he could only endure it. Qin Feiyong and Ling Yunfei looked at each other when they saw Ling family head's sorry state. A trace of ridicule crept into their eyes. Which of these big shots wasn't snobbish? If you had value, he would help you. If you had no value, who were you? Why should he help you? Get lost as far as you can. This was the most realistic problem. Therefore, if you wanted to be valued, you had to work hard to prove your value. Qin Feiyong whispered, "If nothing goes wrong, the martial arts hall master will definitely invite you to join the martial arts hall." As expected, before his voice faded away, the martial arts hall master looked at Ling Yunfei and smiled. "I am deeply sorry for what happened before. I now solemnly invite you to join the martial arts hall. I promise you, as long as you agree, the martial arts hall's only reserved quota will be yours." After these words were spoken, everyone was in an uproar again. However, those people from the Ling clan looked as if they had eaten dog poop. Their faces were extremely ugly. Because once Ling Yunfei agreed, he was destined to soar to the sky. That meant that Ling Yunfei would be completely out of their control. They would even have to look up to him and respect him. This was extremely disadvantageous to them. However, Ling Yunfei was hesitating. Although he hated the martial arts hall master, joining the martial arts hall was something he had always desired. But now he had to consider Qin Feiyong. Without Qin Feiyong's help, he would still be that cowardly trash and wouldn't have his current achievements. If he agreed to the martial arts hall master's invitation, it would be equivalent to burning the bridge after crossing the river. Suddenly, he laughed at himself. What was there to hesitate about? Shouldn't a person know how to repay kindness? With this thought, he looked up at the martial arts hall master and shook his head. "Sorry, I will not join the martial arts hall. I have already promised Zhang Haotian that I will be his sword for life." Rejected? Everyone was surprised. He actually rejected such a tempting offer? What was so great about this Zhang Haotian? How could such a genius be willing to follow him for life? This was also the doubt in the hearts of all the tycoons. However, the martial arts hall master was very angry. He had already said good words and helped him, but he didn't expect that he would still be rejected. And it was only because of a 4-star martial master. Could a mere 4-star martial master be compared to the martial arts hall? No way. It was like the difference between clouds and mud. But Ling Yunfei chose this pile of mud. This was simply humiliating him and the martial arts hall. As for Qin Feiyong, he was naturally very happy, because this proved that he didn't misjudge Zhang Haotian. However, he smiled and said, "Ling Yunfei, go to the martial arts hall. The Martial King Hall is your stage. Go and show your talent to your heart's content." What? Ling Yunfei was stunned. The others were also stunned. "I mean what I say. Don't test me." Ling Yunfei was a little unhappy. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, "I'm not testing you. I sincerely hope that you can enter the Martial King Hall." Seeing that Ling Yunfei still didn't believe him, he smiled helplessly and looked at the martial arts hall master. "I agree on his behalf. I hope you can treat him well." Of course. The martial arts hall master smiled. For the first time, he found that this kid was quite pleasing to the eye. "Why?" Ling Yunfei looked at Qin Feiyong and asked. "How can there be so many whys in the world?" Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. He turned to the Ling family head and said, "Now can you hand over Ling Yunfei's mother to us?" Mentioning this, Ling Yunfei immediately put down the doubts in his heart and turned to stare at the Ling family. "Family head, what should we do?" A group of elders looked at the Ling family head anxiously. The Ling family head was also very anxious and racked his brains to think of a plan. Suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind. "Don't worry, I still have a trick up my sleeve. I guarantee that Zhang Haotian will never be able to make a comeback." He whispered to the elders and looked at the city lord. He cupped his hands and said, "City lord, there's something I need to report to you." "What is it?" The city lord frowned. The Ling family head said, 3 days ago, Zhang Haotian killed 2 city guards called Zhao Lu and Li Qin. Indeed, he wants to frame me." Qin Feiyong sneered secretly. "Really?" The city lord didn't ask for the reason. He only asked if it was true or not. It was enough to show that he still wanted to deal with Qin Feiyong. The Ling family had nodded and said, "It's true. I can guarantee it with my life. I also know that their bodies are buried outside the pill hall. The city lord's eyes flashed. He shouted, "Bring me there immediately." The Ling family head turned around and muttered to the elders. Those elders nodded and carried housekeeper Ling and Ling Sheng's bodies. They quickly entered the city and disappeared. "Why did you let them leave first?" Qin Feiyang mumbled. His eyes were filled with thoughts. There was no need to be so impatient to bury Ling Sheng and housekeeper Ling's bodies, right? If it was during normal times, he wouldn't doubt it. However, it was a special time now. It wasn't normal to let a group of elders leave first. The Ling family had glanced at Qin Feiyang and sneered. He then looked at the city lord and bowed. "City lord, please." The city lord looked at Luo Xiong and said, "Let's go together." "All right." Luo Xiong frowned and nodded. The Ling family had left quickly with the other leaders. Feng Chen came to Qin Feiyang's side and asked in a low voice, "Are you going to do it or not?" Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Elder Feng, just wait and see." "Brat, you're being so mysterious." "All right, I'll wait and see. However, you have to follow me closely now. I'm worried that the Ling family will do something desperate and might plot against you." Feng Chen whispered. He then looked at Ling Yunfei and said, "You too?" The two nodded and followed Feng Chen to the city gate. Ling Yunfei said, "You must have your reasons for asking me to go to the martial arts hall." "There's no reason. I'm just worried that I can't afford to raise you," Qin Feiyang said half-jokingly. Ling Yunfei's face darkened. He wasn't a woman. Why would he need to be raised? "Zhang Lauda, wait for me." At this moment, Fatso squeezed out of the crowd and ran to Qin Feiyang's side. He laughed and said, "Boss, you're so awesome. You're Fat Lord's idol." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. Suddenly, he had an idea. He whispered, "Fat Lord, do me a favor." "What favor?" Fatso was stunned and asked. Qin Feiyang whispered in Fatso's ear. "Really?" Fatso was surprised after hearing it. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "I'm just guessing. I can't be sure. However, it's hard to predict a person's mind. It's necessary to take precautions. Go quickly. After you're done, I'll give you dozens of supreme-grade elixirs." "No problem. Leave it to Fat Lord." Fatso's eyes lit up. He patted his chest and vowed. Then he squeezed into the crowd and ran into the city in front of everyone. He disappeared without looking back. Ling Yunfei was puzzled. "What did you ask Fatso to do?" "Just in case." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and asked, "Do you still have feelings for the Ling family?" Ling Yunfei said, 3 days ago, I did have some feelings. However, when I saw Butler Ling enter the Black Bear Mountain to kill me, all feelings were gone. After saving my mother, I will have nothing to do with the Ling family." "That's good." Qin Feiyang nodded while strands of bright light flickered in the depths of his eyes. Chapter 82. A few hundred breaths later. A group of people arrived at the entrance of the pill hall. The city lord looked around and asked, "Where are the corpses?" To be honest, the Ling family head didn't know the exact location, because only Butler Ling and Qin Feiyang were there when they were buried. "Hurry up and search. See if there are any traces of digging." The Ling family head waved his hand. Dozens of Ling family disciples immediately spread out and started a carpet search. Zhao Lu and Li Qi's corpses were originally buried outside the entrance. Therefore, soon he found some clues. However, when the Ling family people dug up the soil, they were dumbfounded. There was nothing. How did this happen? The Ling family head stood beside the deep pit, dumbfounded. Luo Xiong snorted. "Ling family head, tell me, where are the corpses?" The Ling family head quivered and shouted to the dozens of disciples, "They must be here. Continue digging and searching." Luo Xiong said, "I'll say this first. If you can't find their corpses today, your Ling family will be removed from Black Bear City." The Ling family head's body trembled. The city lord raised his eyebrows and said, "Luo Xiong, it's not that serious, right?" Luo Xiong sneered. "He slandered my pill hall's disciples. It's equivalent to damaging my pill hall's reputation. He's challenging my pill hall's dignity. Isn't that serious?" The city lord frowned deeper and deeper. At this moment, Qin Feiyang took a step forward and looked at the Ling family head playfully. "Everyone, the person who killed Zhao Lu and Li Qi is actually Butler Ling. A bunch of nonsense." The Ling family head immediately shouted, "If you don't do anything wrong, you won't be afraid of ghosts knocking on your door. Why are you so agitated?" Qin Feiyang sneered. "Zhang Haoyan, do you have proof?" Luo Xiong asked. Yes, everyone, follow me to the Ling family. Qin Feiyong turned and left. Everyone followed him. The Ling family head was surprised. But when he thought of what he told Butler Ling, his uneasy heart calmed down. He snorted, I want to see what proof you have. You guys continue to search nearby. I'll follow them back. After instructing the disciples of the clan, he quickly chased after them. When they arrived at the Ling residence, only a few big shots from Black Bear City went in. The others gathered outside, waiting for news. Qin Feiyong looked around the entire way, looking for that fake mountain. After all, he had only been to the Ling family twice, and both times were late at night. Naturally, he wasn't familiar with the layout and environment of the Ling family. Ling family head said coldly, If you can't find him, you must give me an explanation today. You're really forgetful. Let me remind you out of kindness. You're the one who slandered me first. Even if you don't find her, we'll just call it even. Qin Feiyong said lightly. Even? What a delusion. Ling family head sneered secretly. Several hundred breaths passed. Qin Feiyong finally found the rockery. Thus, he led everyone to the back of the rockery. Luo Xiong asked, Is Zhang Haoyan here? Qin Feiyong nodded. Old Feng. Luo Xiong shouted. Feng Cheng waved his hand, and his battle qi gushed out, causing the soil to churn. It stinks. It's the smell of corpses. Before the corpses appeared, a pungent smell of corpses was emitted from the soil first. How could it be? Ling family head's eyes trembled as he stared at the pit. As the soil continued to reduce, the two corpses gradually appeared in everyone's sight. 3 days had passed, and under the hot weather, the corpses had begun to rot. How could this be? Ling family head muttered to himself, full of disbelief. The city lord's eyes darkened as he turned to look at him and shouted, What explanation do you have? Ling family head quivered and hurriedly said, City lord, this is framing. Zhang Haoyan is framing me. Please investigate. The city lord frowned and turned to look at Luo Xiong, saying, It seems that it's not impossible. Qin Feiyong's eyes were cold as he said, The evidence is here, and you still say that I'm framing you? City lord, how much did you receive from the Ling family to protect them like this? How dare you? The city lord shouted, his eyes extremely unfriendly. What? You want to fight? Feng Cheng stood in front of Qin Feiyong, his old eyes flashing with cold light. Luo Xiong and Elder Mo also released their aura, ready to fight. The martial arts hall master glanced at Ling Yunfei, his eyes flashing slightly. He looked at the city lord and laughed. Now that we have the evidence, you still speak for the Ling family. This is indeed too much. The precious treasure pavilion master said, I think so too. The city lord's heart trembled. He never expected that even the two giants, the martial arts hall and the precious treasure pavilion, would stand with Qin Feiyong. He finally understood why Qin Feiyong would let Ling Yunfei join the martial arts hall. Because once Ling Yunfei joined the martial arts hall, with his outstanding talent, the martial arts hall master would definitely protect him like a treasure. Ling Yunfei and Qin Feiyong had a good relationship. Once there was a conflict, the martial arts hall master would naturally stand with the two of them. Who would have thought a youth who wasn't even 16 years old had such terrifying scheming? Just thinking about it made his scalp numb. This kid's threat was too big. He must be killed in the cradle. Murderous intent surged in his heart. He looked at Luo Xiong and the others and said, All right, tell me. If Zhang Haoyan didn't kill him, how did he know the corpse was buried here? Qin Feiyong was so angry that he laughed and said, What a joke. When the Ling family head was slandering me, why didn't you ask him this? City Lord, do you really want to get rid of me so badly? The City Lord said, It was this City Lord who neglected this point. Feng Cheng clenched his fists and said angrily, Zhang Haoyan, just tell him. Elder Mo said, That's right. If someone wants to cover the sky with one hand, he has to ask the pill hall first. The City Lord's eyes darkened. He could clearly feel that the three giants of the pill hall were very unhappy with him. Qin Feiyong said, All right, I'll tell you. You should all remember that night, after we signed the life and death agreement, we left the Ling family directly. Everyone nodded. Qin Feiyong continued, After leaving the Ling family, I sent Ling Yunfei to the Black Bear Mountain to train. When I came back, I saw Butler Ling killing Zhao Lu and Li Qi. Out of curiosity, I followed him. I saw him carrying the two corpses and entering the Ling family. He didn't go through the main door, but sneakily climbed over the wall. This made me even more curious. So, I followed him into the Ling family and continued to follow him. In the end, I saw him coming here and burying the corpses with my own eyes, Qin Feiyong said until here. The Ling family head suddenly roared. Impossible. I clearly told him to frame you, hee. Qin Feiyong laughed. His lips curled into a mocking smile. The eyes of the giants instantly turned cold. Feeling the change in the atmosphere, the Ling family had immediately realized that he had said something wrong. He hurriedly explained, City Lord, what I mean is… Enough! The City Lord shouted. The Ling family head's body shook and his face turned pale. The City Lord said expressionlessly, Not only did you kill the guards, but you also framed Jiang Haotian. You are so vicious that you don't deserve to be a human. Now, I officially announce that the Ling family will be removed from the Black Bear City. What? The Ling family head's body and mind trembled. It was like a bolt from the blue, and his mind was buzzing. The City Lord was also helpless. Because if he didn't deal with it impartially, Luo Xiong would definitely make a fuss. Once the Yen King was alarmed, his position as the City Lord would be difficult to keep. Phew, it's really refreshing. Qin Feiyong let out a long breath. There was no pity in his expression, because all of this was the Ling family's own fault. But suddenly, he frowned and said, Ling family head, how long are you going to drag it out? Drag it out. Ling Yunfei was stunned and instantly understood Qin Feiyong's meaning. He hurriedly shouted, Give my mother back to me. Give it back to you. Haha. The Ling family had laughed out loud as if he had gone mad. Bastard, I'll kill you. Ling Yunfei's heart suddenly burst into a monstrous rage. He opened his hands and pounced towards the Ling family head. Come on, I can use you to escape. The Ling family head sneered in his heart. But Qin Feiyong was quick-witted and grabbed Ling Yunfei's arm. Calm down, you're not his opponent. He can't wait for you to rush up now, because as long as he captures you, he can use you to threaten us. At that time, not only will we not be able to save your mother, even you will die. Hearing these words, Ling Yunfei was suddenly enlightened and sobered up. However, the Ling family head's face became incomparably ferocious. He stared at Qin Feiyong and roared, Who exactly are you? Why are you interfering in my Ling family's private affairs? Qin Feiyong said indifferently, I don't have any hobbies, I just like to fight for justice. Hee. The Ling family head laughed and mocked. Unfortunately, it's too late. I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. I've already sent people to take Ling Yunfei's mother away. She has already left Black Bear City. Bastard, I knew your words couldn't be trusted. Ling Yunfei was immediately furious, and his killing intent soared to the sky. There is indeed a problem. Qin Feiyong whispered. However, wanna run? How could it be so easy? The martial arts hall master walked to Ling Yunfei's side and comforted him. Yunfei, don't worry. I'll send people to find her immediately. Can you find her? Ling Yunfei was in a daze, and his eyes were filled with despair. Everyone was silent. Although their cultivation was not low, once the Ling family left Black Bear City, the sky was wide and the earth was wide. To find them was like looking for a needle in a haystack. No one was confident. Don't worry, they can't escape, Qin Feiyong suddenly said. Everyone looked at him in bewilderment. Zhang Laoda, Fat Lord, is back. At this moment, a loud shout came from afar. Not long later, Fatso ran over breathlessly and said in admiration, Zhang Laoda, you are really a genius. Those old farts of the Ling family really left Black Bear City with a woman. Qin Feiyong asked, which direction did they go? Fatso said, the west gate, and then went straight to the west. Qin Feiyong turned to look at Luo Xiong, but before he could speak, Luo Xiong said, Old Feng, Old Mo, I'll have to trouble you to make a trip. Feng Chung and Old Mo nodded, and their battle chi surged. Without touching the ground, they turned into a stream of light and quickly disappeared. At the same time, the Ling family had suddenly exploded and punched towards Qin Feiyong. He hated Qin Feiyong to the core. Chapter 83. At this moment, everyone was concerned about the matter of Ling Yunfei's mother. They were not prepared at all. They did not expect that the Ling family head would still be so stubborn and try to kill Qin Feiyong. However, it did not mean that Qin Feiyong was not prepared. Uncle Yuan had repeatedly warned him that no matter how strong or weak the enemy was, he had to go all out. Therefore, even though the Ling family head was now a prisoner, he did not let down his guard. Just as the Ling family head's fist was about to hit him, he did not hesitate to grab Ling Yunfei and use the Luo Yen steps to retreat. Because he knew that once the Ling family head failed, he would definitely attack Ling Yunfei again. The Ling family head's fist missed, but he did not give up and continued to pounce on the two. With Qin Feiyang's cultivation, even with the Luo Yen steps, his speed could not be compared to the Ling family head. If there was no one around, today the two of them would definitely die. But don't forget, there were still a few big shots around. After Luo Xiong and the martial arts hall master reacted, they rushed towards the Ling family head at almost the same time. Cold light shot out from their eyes. Both of them were battle kings. How fast was their speed? In the blink of an eye, they grabbed the Ling family head and forcefully suppressed him. The Ling family head's face was ashen, and he was completely in despair. Now, it was impossible for anyone to help him. Even if the city lord wanted to, he did not have the guts. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice, "City lord, how do you plan to deal with this person? What do you think?" The city lord asked. Qin Feiyang said, "If it were up to me, I would kill him directly and end it all." The city lord said, "This matter is not serious enough to kill. How about this? I will give the order to drive the Ling family out of Black Bear City." The Ling family head was overjoyed. As long as he did not die, there was still a chance. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Drive out of Black Bear City? This was simply a joke. The city lord was obviously still protecting the Ling family. Qin Feiyang glanced at the city lord and then at the Ling family head, who was restrained by Luo Xiong and the martial arts hall master, kneeling on the ground, unable to move. This was undoubtedly a good opportunity. His eyes flashed and he said lightly, "If that's the case, I have a few words to say to the Ling family head." He strode over and whispered into the Ling family head's ear, "Do you think that with the help of the city lord, you can escape today?" Finished speaking. He took out the Chong Shui and swung it fiercely, directly cutting off the Ling family head's neck. Then, he immediately put away the Chong Shui. The speed was too fast. In addition, no one was mentally prepared. All they saw was a flash of white light, and a neat cut appeared on Ling family head's throat. Blood spurted out like a fountain. The Ling family head glared at Qin Feiyang, his eyes full of hatred. It was as if he wanted to say something, but before he could, his head tilted to one side and he died on the spot. Everyone was dumbstruck. Especially the disciples of the Ling family. They were extremely nervous. The death of the family head was equivalent to the collapse of the family's pillar of support. To them, it was equivalent to a catastrophe. Boom. All of a sudden, a terrifying aura surged out like an avalanche, shocking the entire place. It was the city lord who was flipping out. After being provoked one after another, he was about to go berserk. But at the same time, Luo Xiong also released his aura and confronted the city lord. The two giants looked at each other, and their expressions gradually turned cold. Humph. In the end, the city lord snorted, flicked his sleeves, and turned to leave angrily. He didn't dare to stay any longer, because he was afraid that he couldn't control himself and really fought with Luo Xiong. Once the city lord left, the disciples and servants of the Ling family were even more flustered. Although the treasure pavilion master had the ability to fight with Luo Xiong, he obviously didn't want to meddle in other people's business. The martial arts hall master's standpoint also changed because of Ling Yunfei. Now, who could help them? Who would be willing to help them? They all knew that today was the end of the Ling family. Luo Xiong glanced at the Ling family and said, "Let's go, we will wait outside." The group left the Ling family. Fatso went to Qin Feiyang and said with a flattering smile, "Zhang Lauda, you have to keep your word. I will definitely not treat you badly." Qin Feiyang patted Fatso's shoulder and turned to Ling Yunfei. He smiled faintly and said, "When old Feng and the others bring your mother back, you have to thank them and this fat lord." Ling Yunfei nodded and cupped his hands. "Thank you, fat bro." Fatso waved his hand and said, "We are all brothers, no need to be so polite. But you are quite good at hiding. Not only did you deceive the Ling family for more than 10 years, but you also deceived everyone in Black Bear City." "I didn't want it to be like this," Ling Yunfei said dejectedly. Fatso walked over and put his arm around Ling Yunfei's shoulder. He laughed and said, "Brother, the beautiful life is still waiting for us to enjoy. Those unlucky things in the past, let's just treat it as a fart. Anyway, it is others who are stinking, right?" Ling Yunfei was stunned. What kind of logic was this? However, after hearing Fatso's words, his heart relaxed a lot. Qin Feiyong couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. Although Fatso was usually a bit unreliable, he was quite reliable at critical moments. Ling Yunfei, I killed your second uncle. Do you hate me? He suddenly asked. Of course not. I thought that if he died in front of me, I would be more or less sad. But when he really died in front of me, I found that I couldn't feel sad at all. In fact, there was a strong sense of pleasure in my heart. Ling Yunfei said. Qin Feiyong and Fatso looked at each other. How deep was his resentment? I'm afraid that since childhood, he has never lived a peaceful life. My lords who killed Zhao Lu and Li Seven. Why did the city lord look so angry just now? As soon as Qin Feiyong and the others walked out of the Ling residence, the family heads surrounded them, their eyes full of surprise. Luo Xiong said, it was the Ling family head who instigated Butler Ling to kill them, in order to frame Zhang Haotian. The crowd was in an uproar. Fatso stepped forward and shouted, by the way, let me tell you that the Ling family head is dead. The city lord personally ordered that the Ling family will be removed from Black Bear City from now on. As soon as the news came out, it immediately exploded. In just a few hundred breaths, it spread to every corner of Black Bear City, and everyone knew about it. Some were shocked. Some were happy. Of course, the Zhang family and the Mu family were happy, because the destruction of the Ling family was equivalent to one less strong competitor. From then on, the situation in Black Bear City was no longer a tripartite. The most important thing was that without the Ling family, they would get more benefits. As for the patriarchs of the small families, they were probably thinking about how to rise up and become the third big family after the Ling family. An hour later, Fengcheng and Elder Mo finally returned. Behind them, there was a woman. Her hair was disheveled, her face was pale, and she was extremely haggard. Her clothes were also extremely dirty. She looked as if she had just walked out of a garbage dump, and her body was emitting a foul smell. Moreover, on her wrists and ankles there were 2 dark iron chains, as thick as a baby's arm. As she walked, she kept making clanging sounds. The 2 iron chains were very heavy, and every step she took was very difficult. Mother! Ling Yunfei's body trembled, and he looked at the woman without blinking. In an instant, tears streamed down his face, and his heart ached. Not to mention Ling Yunfei, even Qin Feiyong, Luo Xiong, and the others couldn't help but feel sour in their hearts. Feier! When the woman saw Ling Yunfei as well, she stopped in her tracks and called out softly. Her tears also fell uncontrollably. Mother! Ling Yunfei roared and ran forward hurriedly, hugging the woman and crying bitterly. Luo Xiong asked Old Feng, Old Mo, why didn't you help her remove the iron chains on her? Fengcheng smiled. It's better to leave this matter to her son. Elder Mo had a smile on his face as well. Qin Feiyong asked in confusion, Elders, where are the elders of the Ling family? Fengcheng said, we let them go. Let them go. Qin Feiyong's expression changed. Those elders were all martial ancestor realm cultivators. This was akin to letting the tiger return to the mountain. Fengcheng waved his hands indifferently and said, don't worry, I've already taught them a lesson. I believe they won't dare to find trouble with you and Ling Yunfei again. I hope so. Qin Feiyong mumbled. The destruction of the Ling family was caused by him. The head of the Ling family was also killed by him. He didn't believe that those elders would give up. But since they had already let them go, what else can they do? They can only be careful in the future. Luo Xiong smiled. Zhang Haotian, let's go and give the mother and son a chance to be alone. Qin Feiyong nodded. Although there are many doubts in his heart, it's obviously not the time to ask. After Qin Feiyong and others left, the others also dispersed. Zhang family head looked at the gate of the Ling family. His eyes flashed with an inexplicable light. He walked to Mu family head and whispered, I have something to discuss with you. Mu family head looked at him with some surprise and said, it just so happens that I have something to discuss with you. The 2 family heads mixed in the crowd and quickly left. Soon, only the martial arts hall master and Ling Yunfei's mother and son were left. The martial arts hall master stepped forward and smiled. Yunfei, I believe your mother is tired. Let's go back to the martial arts hall and let your mother take a hot bath and relax. You can talk slowly. Okay. Ling Yunfei nodded and turned his head to look around. He was slightly stunned and asked, where are Zhang Haotian and the others? The martial arts hall master said, they left first. Ling Yunfei said anxiously, I haven't thanked them properly. How can they leave? There will be plenty of time in the future. Why are you in a hurry? The martial arts hall master shook his head and smiled. That's true. Ling Yunfei nodded and smiled. He borrowed a dagger from the martial arts hall master. After cutting the 2 iron chains, he supported the woman and told her what happened these days. Then he followed the martial arts hall master to the Dan Hall. At the same time, the guards of the City Lord Mansion went to the major city gates and posted a notice. The content was roughly, the Ling family spread rumors and caused trouble. From today onwards, the Ling family will be removed from the Black Bear City. All the children of the Ling family will be ordered to leave the Black Bear City before dawn tomorrow. Once this notice was posted, the destruction of the Ling family became a foregone conclusion. No one could change it. But in the City Lord Mansion, the City Lord summoned 2 guards. These 2 people were his confidants. Leave the city immediately. No matter what, you have to find the elders of the Ling family. After you find them, don't tell anyone. Don't bring them back. Temporarily settle them in the nearby mountains and wait for my next order. The City Lord ordered, and the 2 immediately left. Little bastard, you think it's over? Let me tell you, it's still too early. Chapter 84. On the way back to the Pill Palace, Fengcheng rubbed Qin Feiyang's head and asked curiously, "Why are you so smart?" "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and looked at him in confusion. At that time, we all saw the elders of the Ling family leaving first. However, we didn't expect that they were planning to escape with Ling Yunfei's mother. Not only did you think of that, you even asked Fatso to follow them. I really want to open your head and see what's inside. As Fengcheng spoke, he stared at Qin Feiyang's head, his eyes shining. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel numb. He hurriedly took a few steps to the side. Then, he laughed dryly and said, "I'm just a blind cat running into a dead mouse. I'm just lucky. Don't talk nonsense with me." Fengcheng stared at him and said, "Tell me honestly. Did you kill Zhao Lu and the others?" Qin Feiyang said, "I swear that it was Butler Ling who killed them." This was the truth. There was no need to feel guilty. Fengcheng frowned and said, "Why did that Ling guy say that the bodies were buried outside of the Pill Palace?" Qin Feiyang briefly explained what happened that night. Haha, so that's how it is. Interesting. Really interesting. Brat, I realize that I like you more and more. Why don't you be my disciple? Fengcheng laughed and said, Luo Xiong and Elder Mo both looked at Fengcheng with disdain. He had level 9 mental power. He even concocted a supreme grade elixir on his first try. With such talent, you're worthy to be his master? Before you open your mouth, can you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? What kind of virtue are you? You're really shameless. Although the 2 of them didn't say it out loud, anyone who understood would be able to read their eyes. However, Fengcheng wasn't embarrassed at all. He said confidently, "No matter what, I am the most experienced elder of the Pill Palace. I am more than qualified to teach a newbie like him. All right then, why don't you go and refine a top-grade pill for me to see? If you can't refine it, then stop talking nonsense. Don't embarrass yourself here." Elder Mo said mercilessly. Fengcheng was furious on the spot. Seeing that a quarrel was about to break out, Luo Xiong's face darkened. He shouted, "Enough, enough. Don't you see that there are still 2 disciples here? Quarreling here and there, what a scandal." Fatso hurriedly said, "I didn't hear anything." Qin Feiyang also said seriously, "I didn't see anything either. But I don't care if he's a disciple, but if he can be my grandson-in-law, I can seriously consider it." Grandson-in-law? Luo Xiong and the other man were taken aback. Their eyes immediately turned playful. Fengcheng was also taken aback. Then he became furious and shouted, "Bastard, you're making fun of my granddaughter again. See if I don't teach you a lesson today." TSK, looking at your face, your granddaughter probably isn't that good-looking either. I don't even like her. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he hurriedly ran away. My granddaughter isn't that good-looking? Fengcheng was stunned for a moment. Then he roared in exasperation, "Brat, stop right there." Luo Xiong hurriedly grabbed him and said angrily, "You're already so old, yet you're still causing trouble. Don't you feel ashamed?" He's already lost all his face. Elder Mo suddenly stabbed him again, causing Fengcheng to blow his beard and glare. He was extremely angry. Seeing that the situation wasn't good, Fatso also hurriedly ran away. After catching up to Qin Feiyong, he looked at Qin Feiyong with a strange expression and asked, Zhang Lauda, have you seen Elder Feng's granddaughter? No. Qin Feiyong shook his head and asked confusedly, why do you ask? Nothing. Fatso waved his hand, but there was a trace of ridicule in his eyes. He secretly laughed and said, when you see her in person, you'll know what it means to be shocking. Back at the pill hall, Qin Feiyong directly went to the pill fire hall and entered the number 4 alchemy room. But he didn't refine any pills. He went to the ancient castle and started to copy the 4th stroke of the calligraphy. To copy the 3rd stroke, he used 8,000 chi amassing pills. If there were no accidents, the 4th stroke should cost 32,000 chi amassing pills. Luckily, he didn't lack chi amassing pills now. Late at night, a group of black-clothed people broke into the Ling family. They were powerful, and their methods were vicious. They were like grim reapers from hell, crazily reaping lives. None of the disciples and servants survived. During the entire process, not a single scream was heard. In the end, this group of black-clothed people even took away all of the Ling family's treasures and resources. In other words, the Ling family only had a dozen elders and Ling Yan left. Without a doubt, the next day, this incident caused a huge uproar. Everyone was guessing who was so vicious. They actually massacred the Ling family in one night. After the city lord heard the news, there was no doubt that he was furious. He ordered people to investigate thoroughly. The first person they thought of was Qin Feiyong, because in the entire Black Bear City, only Qin Feiyong had the deepest grudge with the Ling family. But soon, Luo Xiong stood up and helped Qin Feiyong to clarify. Everyone began to suspect Ling Yunfei again. The martial arts hall master also stood up and helped Ling Yunfei to clarify. If it wasn't Qin Feiyong or Ling Yunfei, then who could it be? No one could think of a third person. As time passed, this matter didn't fade away. Instead, it continued to ferment and become more and more serious. But the culprit couldn't be found. At the same time, various small families also began to fish in troubled waters, wanting to soar into the sky and become the 3rd largest family. But how could the Mu family and the Zhang family let them succeed? Full suppression. The situation in Black Bear City was getting more and more chaotic by the day. Undercurrents were surging. Open strife and covert fighting. Every day, there were people disappearing for no reason. On this day, Cheng Yi, Ji Jin, Lu Hong, and Ling Yan were finally released from the pig cage. After a month of contamination, without exception, the 4 of them were covered in a foul stench. Anyone who met them would pinch their noses and take a detour. The 4 of them held their hands, lowered their heads, and silently returned to their residence with a heart full of resentment. They washed and scrubbed until the stench on their bodies was completely washed away. Only then did they dare to show their faces in front of others. Ling Yan immediately knew that the Ling family was massacred. A ball of anger immediately burned in his heart. Cheng Yi and the other 2 were also furious when they knew that the alchemy room was occupied. They swore silently in their hearts. They must pay back 100 times and wash away their shame. On the same day, a small piece of news spread among the disciples of the Pill Hall. Have you heard? Zhang Haoyan and Elder Feng's granddaughter are engaged. He's just a person who got in through connections. He didn't rely on his own ability. That's right. He could get the right to use alchemy room number 4 because of Elder Feng's special care. I thought he was very capable. Turns out he's just a pretty boy who relies on women. This kind of pretentious person is really disgusting. For a moment, discussions were everywhere in the Pill Hall. The news quickly reached Feng Cheng's ears. He was furious on the spot. He immediately went to the Pill Fire Hall. Zhang Haoyan, get out here. He stood outside alchemy room number 4 and shouted angrily. Qin Feiyong frowned. Why did Feng Cheng come to him? He had already copied half of the 4th stroke. He wanted to copy it all at once. But now, it seemed that he could only stop here temporarily. After closing the iron book, he appeared in the alchemy room with a thought. At this moment, Feng Cheng lost his patience. He directly smashed open the stone door and walked in angrily. Seeing this, Qin Feiyong asked suspiciously, Elder Feng, who made you so angry? Feng Cheng said with a sullen face, you still have the nerve to ask? Tell me, what's going on with the rumors outside? Gossips? Qin Feiyong frowned. Feng Cheng said angrily, now everyone is talking about the engagement between you and my granddaughter. You dare to say that this has nothing to do with you? Engagement? Qin Feiyong was stunned. He was a little confused. But suddenly, he remembered. Last time in the restaurant, he did talk about this with Cheng-yi. It was just that he didn't expect Cheng-yi to make a fuss about this. Elder Feng listened to my explanation. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. After he closed the stone door, he began to narrate what had happened in detail. After Elder Feng heard this, he frowned and said, "Even so, you shouldn't talk nonsense." Qin Feiyang nodded and said, Yes. It's my fault. I apologize to you. I apologize to your granddaughter. If an apology is useful, what's the use of the law? My granddaughter is still a virgin. Do you know how much of an impact you've had on her after hearing what you've said? Kid, you must give me a satisfactory answer as soon as possible. Otherwise, you'll get it. Feng Cheng glared at him fiercely, then turned around and left. You're tuning in to the Blimay's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.